never had a survivor in the house. I've had fighters, I've had doctors, I've had lawyers, I've had entrepreneurs, but a survivor is the first. My man Sifu, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, this is a pleasure. This is fun.
Yeah.
Before we even talk about all the things that people already know you about, you gave me this message, I want to say maybe an hour before we did this, before we sat down and started talking. And it was kind of like the greatest hits of Sifu, right?
Right.
And the very first one that I saw there that really spoke out to me was, new father. You have a 1-year-old, a son, and this is your first child. I personally think that the trajectory of my life has been forever changed by becoming a father. It forced me to be a better man.
Right.
And I like to think that this is a commonality between all men, but I'd like to hear from you. What has becoming a father done for you? How has it shaped you?
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful preface there, because me being a father is everything. When I was younger, I never pictured myself as a good dad. I had a really great role model for a father, so I was like, well, if I could be anything or half as good as that, maybe I'll be a good dad. But I never pictured myself as that. And then kind of just getting into this whole thing, I'm like, this is what I was meant to do, is be a dad. Like, when I saw him born, my entire life changed. And I could just see, tears were flowing down my eyes. And I'm like, this is my little buddy. This is my little guy. And something felt right. Something felt I felt connected to him, and I think it was because I have a great relationship with my fiance. We have good family, we have good connections, and I think it was just the right time, right place, and it just made sense. And we did plan them. I mean, we talked about it. We were like, we want to have a future, we want to have a family, we want to have kids. But first time dad, it's not for the weak. It's not for the weak. The nurse laughed at me because the first diaper change, I got peed on, man, and I felt like I had to go Neo, like Morpheus Neo, like dodge the pee, and so I think those moments, they're fun to look back and laugh at, but it's like, man, this is what I was meant to be as a father. Like, all these accomplishments are great, and I've had some cool adventures we'll get into, obviously, but fatherhood is the biggest, best adventure that is a roller coaster that just you can't define every day. It's an everyday change. But yeah, I think for me, my heart swells every day. I'll start tearing up, a little bit. And my son, Kai, August Alsup, is the light of my world. And I named him Kai because of Dragon Ball Z. So.
DBZ Kai.
Yeah. So anyways, we don't have to, my fiance, I got away with that one. But yeah, I think it was life-changing. But you know what? I think more than that, it gave me a perspective, because I love the human condition, right? And I love to see what it does to people. And so now I'm like, oh, I'm sitting in this. Like, I'm the father. I'm the person, the provider, and taking care of this child. And it gave me this perspective to see, like, how could anyone mistreat a kid? Like, it doesn't even compute in my head to when I see those things, and I'm like, I don't understand how you could not love this life and want to pour everything into your child. And so it gave me this perspective to keep pushing, to keep being the best father I can be. And if I see anything on like Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, that's anything abusive, I'm like, I can't even watch it. It hurts so bad.
It's funny that you say that, because I am the exact same way. Like, in a lot of aspects of life, I'm like a hard motherfucker. Like, there's not a lot that really phases me.
Right.
And then before I had the kid, like I always looked at some of these things like, oh my gosh, like this parent, did whatever they did with to their kid, and I was like, man, that kind of sucks. Now, as a father, whenever I watch that stuff or I hear that stuff or I read that stuff, I think to myself, oh my God, like, it hits me differently. I'm more sensitive to it, which is, it's astounding, because there's nothing else in my life where I've changed so drastically in such a short amount of time as the sensitivity towards my child's well-being, both physically and mentally.
Facts.
And by the way, it extends past just my child. Now it's to all children.
Exactly.
Because I think like, oh my gosh, the way I feel about my daughter is probably the way you feel about your son.
Oh,
so just like I don't want anything bad to happen to my daughter,
right.
I don't want anything bad to happen to your son because
Exactly.
I wouldn't want to feel that. I don't want you to feel that. It's humanity. Right. I think it's like very just, it brings us closer to one another because it gives us something that we value more than any sort of material good.
Right.
It's another human. It's past ourselves. It's selfless. And I think that's what, whenever I say like it'll make a man better being a father, at least I hope it does. I think that's the aspect. It's not like an immediate, it's not like I bought a bottle of whiskey and I'm going to drink it and I'm going to feel loose and good.
You feel it, right.
It's like this is an investment that will outlive me. I will die.
100%.
My daughter will bury me and then everything that I impart to her, she'll have going forward. And there's like I think there's a beauty to it.
There is. It's a beauty, and that's what I love about it. Is I think that it lit a fire underneath me that no one could have ever expected.
Just wanted to take a second to pause the action and just tell you guys thank you so much for consuming our content. Easy Talk is a passion project. This podcast is just a bunch of like-minded people coming together to produce some cool stuff and talk to some cool people. One of the things I would very much appreciate is if you could possibly like the video or subscribe to the channel, just because it helps us in the algorithm and ultimately to grow, to get more exposure to everybody, including ourselves, and ultimately just make a better product. Take a second. I'd greatly appreciate it. And on with the show.
And not even myself. Like, you just said it perfectly. It's like, I want them to have more than I've ever had. And so when they bury me or whenever I'm gone, I want that life to be so plush and rich and full. And, obviously everybody should have some struggle and things like that. But I want my son to know the foundation that I laid for everybody, whether it's wealth or whether it's good lessons and whether I'm just a good role model in his life and other people. I want him to see all of that and be like, damn, my dad really tried. You know what I mean?
So I don't know about for you, but also that when I became a father, it really put into perspective some of the things that my parents did that at the time I may have not understood.
Yes.
Or maybe I thought I did.
Right.
And then I find myself, it's funny how life works. I find myself now with my daughter in the exact same positions that I found myself as a kid to my mom and dad.
Right.
And it's very, the self-reflection is not lost on me to where I think that parents, I'm curious what you'll think about this. Sure. I think whether or not you have a good parent or a bad parent is honestly irrelevant.
Right.
Because as long as you have the building blocks, the foundations, you will either use some aspects of them as a bad parent as like fuel to, I'm not going to do it that way.
Sure.
Or you will amplify some of the things that they did, and you say like, that really hit home with me. I'm gonna take that and use it. Add a little bit to that. Now, to the extent that I say like it doesn't matter if you have a good parent or bad parent, let me kind of extrapolate that.
Sure.
I'm not saying that like if you have an absent father, that's the same as having a great father. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I guess what I'm saying is like I've had some people that are telling me like my dad's really strict or I don't really have the best relationship with my mom. It's like, yeah, well at least they're present. At least they're there. I mean, like I hate to say it that way, but like even if you say something like, I don't like my relationship with my parent, father or mother, at least they were present enough to where you can articulate that friction and you can kind of deduce like, what is it about that relationship that you don't like? And you can use that nuance and you can build on that for yourself. Well, I don't like how my mom was super, strict with me when I was young. So I'm going to not be as strict on my kid. Or maybe my father was, he was gone too much for work. I'm going to make it a point to be there more for my kid. Or it could be the plus side. Like, man, my dad was always there for me. I'm going to make sure that I'm there for my kid because that shit meant a lot to me.
I see what you mean. Yeah, you when you look at that and you go back to like your own parents as a father now, well, a couple different things I could get into, but I'll start here. Wow.
Yeah, good job.
Good job. Like, wow, you know what I mean? I'm just like,
I don't know how y'all did it. Yeah. Pre-internet and GPS.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we live in a world that's so different now. And it truly does take a tribe to raise a child.
I agree.
And I look back and I'm like, everything they did for me, my parents, And whether I loved it or hated it, I'm like, you did it, and it's because that's what you thought was best at the moment. You know, my parents didn't have all the resources growing up. We weren't the wealthiest family, you know, and so uh, you get accustomed to, oh, tonight's spaghetti night because it can feed everybody. But then you're just happy that you're eating. But when you grow up, you're like, we're eating spaghetti because we're poor. Okay, you know, it's like, and they're doing it, and they aren't rubbing it all over you, saying we're poor. You can't. They're just providing. And then I look back at that as fuel, like, oh, okay. If I don't have it all, and if you don't have it all as a parent, you don't have to show your child that. You know, you don't have to be like, okay, we're poor. We got McDonald's money. We don't have McDonald's money. We don't have Denny's money. It's like, just put the food on the table, be the provider, connect with them, do the best you can, learn from the goods and the bads. And that will provide a life for them that they will feel like, oh, they were always there. They fed me. We had a house. We went out and did some sort of hikes and vacations or whatever. You know what I mean? And listen, a vacation doesn't mean the Bahamas. We might be able to go hiking and call that a vacation for you.
Go to your local river.
Go to your local river. And if you start, I know growing up you might be like, all right, Carlisle Lake was my Bahamas, but it doesn't matter, you know, because if you can be positive, love and connect with your child, you kind of relate that to your parents and like they did everything they could. So now I'm doing everything I could without smearing it negatively, having negativity in it, right? I want to make sure that my future and my child's future and my fiance's future, soon to be wife, is embedded in all of that. Like I'm not ever going to look at my parents and what they did and demonize anything.
No.
And I'm getting back to that point because yeah, I mean, my mom is feisty. Anyone who knows my mom knows she's feisty. But then if you look at how she grew up, dirt poor, tons of brothers and sisters, didn't have much, and then now she's able to provide for me and my sister and my and kind of all that stuff. And it's really like, all right, when you're a kid, you don't see that. When you're an adult, you're like, all right, I got you, Mom. You're tight. You hooked us up. You took care of us. And now I'm seeing that, and I think I'm the better version of that. Not to downplay my mother at all, but I am the better version of that.
She would want that to be the case.
Exactly. And then so now I'm like, all right, with Kai, my child, I'm going to provide the best life for him, but that doesn't mean an easy life. That means a life that has the beauty and also has some of the darkness. He's got to experience that. I mean, you just do. I don't want my child walking on gold-plated, shoes everywhere. I think that's more damage than good. But I definitely want to instill, live positively, love deeply, be rooted in your foundation, family, friends, love, connection, spirituality, whatever it might be, and try to listen and do the best you can. And that's just coming from what I learned from my parents. Now, if we go deeper into my parents, something that I didn't mention to you that might be a shock is my mom and my father, they're saints. I'm adopted. They adopted me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so when they adopted me, it was a situation where my biological mother, and I have a relationship with her now, but she just wasn't healthy, and she wasn't healthy. And my mother now took over until she could get healthy again. Wow. What an amazing person. And then for me to get older and be sour at all, it's just like, dude, she took the initiative to take you out of a situation so someone else can get healthier and have, and work on themselves. And she gave it all up for you and your sister and the family that she had. So I'm forever grateful for reflection on my family, my past, because I'm like, wow, it's never just linear. You know what I mean? Nothing that we go through is linear. And so it gives me grace now thinking as a father, like when I feel like I'm not doing great, I'm like, okay, it's not linear. It's not going to be perfect. But realize that the foundation is just being built. He's one. you know, and we're figuring this out. This is our new child. But reflecting back to where we've been and my family's has been, it's eons. It's way further and better already. You see what I'm saying? That I'm giving to him, the things that I'm providing for him, because
when we do that calculus, sometimes I wonder if we put too much onus on money, because I would venture to say,
right.
And I want to get to the adoption question, and there's another question I have for you, but I want to touch on this topic first. I think we're both coming from similar backgrounds where I was also like, I always say that we were money poor, but love rich.
Right.
So like, I knew we were poor.
Right.
We felt that we were poor, but I never felt poor.
Right.
Like my mom would never get me the new pair of shoes, but she could scrap $45 together to sign me up for basketball.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So like the things that were important I had, and I didn't always have the things I wanted, and that was okay. And then when I look at me and my brother and how we turned out, I mean, I'm like the American dream personified. Like my daughter will have kind of like what you said about like the eons. It's like the amount of leverage that she will be able to take control over is truly life-changing, and is a testament to my parents and what they did. They left a country of poverty, came to America. We're still, you know, lower class.
Right, sure.
But they worked their asses off. They made a better life for their kids, and now we have better lives. But then I think to myself, like, if we had no money growing up, and now I look back at their parenting with such reverence, it's not money that made that right. But yet, we as parents, and not just you, not just me, everybody I talk to, everybody says the same thing. Like, I want to give them what I didn't have. I want to give them what I didn't have. I want to give them the opportunities, this side or the other. It's like, dude, for me, all I needed was to be loved and to be protected and to be given the things that I needed, even if I didn't know I needed them, right? Not everything that I wanted. So sometimes I think about that, like with my daughter, where you were talking about, like, you know, you don't want your son to basically walk this earth like with a bubble wrap suit. Yeah. You want him to scrape his knee. You want him to feel a little friction in life. Yes. I think there is something to be said about struggle and the character that builds. And now we will have a different problem from our forefathers, and that will be, how do we introduce struggle, even if it's artificial? Right. And I think when Garrett Gross was on here, he was 2 episodes ago. It's funny because he also brought up adoption, but he was talking about he'll create friction on small things. He's got a teenager, a 12-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And like they'll go to McDonald's and he'll be like, "What do you guys want?" And they'll say the cheeseburger. So he'll get the chicken nuggets. You know what I mean? Everyone is like, "Oh, what an asshole." Yeah, but that's like right. And then he'll give them the chicken nuggets, and the son will be like, "I wanted a cheeseburger." He's like, "Yeah, you don't always get what you want." Kind of sucks. It sounds you know stupid, but no, it's like,
it doesn't sound stupid. I think those are.
I thought that was genius.
I think those are fun moments for him, and then it's genius lesson, you know, for them.
Yeah, it's like you still got McDonald's.
You still got McDonald's.
In the grand scheme of things,
right. But I think that's a great lesson. Yeah, I do think the struggle is necessary.
I think it's inevitable.
It is inevitable.
You will struggle.
Well, that's
if you don't struggle, that'll lead to struggle.
My clients would not let me not say this, because it's funny you said inevitable. My main saying is pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. That is what I tell all my clients. And I think I live by that. Because no matter what in life, pain is inevitable. It just will happen. It is your choice to suffer or not to suffer. That is it. You know, that is it. Like, and that is in every aspect of life. Parenting, you know, definitely martial arts and sports. Whatever it might be, I think that is my foundation, one of my cores. So shout out to my clients too. So
do you mind if I ask you a question about the adoption?
Of course, let's go to it.
Garrett brought up on our episode, he brought up that they are currently looking to possibly adopt. And one of the things that blew my fucking mind was that the adoption process is incredibly invasive and very expensive. He was telling me that, like, for them to get a baby,
pardon me,
we're talking about like $45,000 to $50,000.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, there's no way that's the case.
That is wild.
The average cost to adopt a kid in the United States of America in the year of our Lord 2025 is between $35,000 and $45,000 on average. Yeah, make that make sense.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So kudos to your parents for taking on that task. Maybe it was not necessarily that same like financial hurdle initially.
It was much different.
But I just think to myself, like, you're a great story or a great reflection of, like, when certain hurdles are kind of taken down,
Right.
then you can allow for people to do the most amount of good for other people.
100%.
So it's like, it made me think, like, why the hell would you ever put such a financial burden on taking children and providing for them the guardianship that every kid so craves?
Sure. I think, and again, I'd have to do a little bit more research, but I think there should be some sort of cost, but I don't think 30, 40, 5,000.
No, agreed.
But I think
if you told me 5,000,
yeah,
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Right. But I do see that there needs
that's
to be
a Tesla. 50,000. Go buy a Tesla.
Yeah, that is a big leap.
Yeah.
I do see the need to have some expense because you need to have the people that can afford it.
Yeah.
I agree. But I do think that the research of the people, like a deep dive, like a FBI guy, homes, their past, their history. Like, I think that needs to be invested into more if it isn't.
Well, right now, when I looked into it, the majority of the cost goes into two things.
Yeah.
The attorneys, the judges, the judicial system. But dude, we're talking about like $10,000 to $15,000. Wow. That's insane.
Yeah.
If you told me, okay, it costs $10,000. It costs $10,000.
Sure.
You don't need a lawyer. You can go represent yourself. Hey, I want to adopt a kid. Okay, so then the judge says, okay, well, we have to send a person from the state to come check out your facilities. Make sure that the house is in order to take a kid.
Right.
But, do an interview with them. What if they already have a kid? So, like, what if you have your 1-year-old and you're like, knock on wood, you can have another one, but let's say you can't and you want to adopt. You can be like, hey, I already have a kid. I've already proven that I can take care of a human life. I want to have another kid. So Garrett has 3 kids, biological kids, and they want to adopt. And they have to go through this whole process. Yeah, I would be like, yo, he's got 3.
Yeah,
what are we doing here?
We got some good proof here, yeah.
So if that $10,000 went to like doing the interviews, checking out the facilities, maybe background checks, whatever, the costs of stuff, I'd understand. Dude, there's no way you could tell me even 10 grand would. This is it's insane.
It is.
It's insane.
It is insane, and I didn't know it was at that.
I didn't either.
I didn't know it was at that cost because
I dug into it afterwards because I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
No, 100%. That's the case.
Wow.
It's insane.
Private agency. That's how many
private agency.
Adopt a special needs child.
Wow.
One that's older.
Way higher.
So if you want to adopt a special needs kids, one that's older, you need a private agency. That's what I'm saying.
No. If they're special needs or older, cheap.
Oh, really? So if they have special needs or they're older, it's cheaper.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So most of that money goes to these private.
I would say that the inverse would be in effect because, like, if you want to adopt a 1-year-old, you're taking on at the very least a 17-year commitment to their financial future.
That's what I would think in the formula.
So the 17-year-old is like they're basically an adult. They're going to be almost out of the house in a couple of years anyway.
Yeah.
So like I would be like, hey, I would want to make
interesting. Yeah.
Because think about it, like logically, it's a financial. I don't want to say burden. It's a financial responsibility. You're going to start that process with $45K in the hole. You're an asshole. You know what I mean? Am I wrong? Like maybe I'm.
I love the way you think, man.
Yeah, it's like, dude, I would give you like a. You want to know what I would do?
What would you do?
Tax credit. You want to adopt a kid? $5,000 back at the end of the year for you. Thank you. You're doing society a service.
I wonder if someone has done that, right?
Well, I think every deal with corruption that happens in the land is usually incentive based. So like if you want to find corruption in all aspects of life, not even just like political.
Corruption is everywhere.
Yes, individuals, corporations, what have you. It's always incentive based. So I always say if you want to limit corruption, if you want to, eliminate it, create different incentives.
Right.
Create incentives for people to do well. And then they will, because it's in their best interest to do well.
Right.
I think there's 7 deadly sins, and greed is actually the best one of them, because that's the easiest one to manipulate.
Yeah.
If I can align my interests with yours, I will never be surprised at your actions. So it's like, I will just create incentives to make it so that doing the right thing has positive outcomes for your life. And it's not necessarily at your own expense. So you want to adopt a kid. Now you have to overcome this $45K hurdle.
I see what you're saying.
You want to be a good person, but the incentive isn't there.
Right.
It's actually
because how many more people? If that wasn't 45 or 50,000, how many more people would helped kids, right?
Yeah, but
If it
here's
was-
here's the flip side, because
Right.
every incentive could also be bastardized. So
Yeah.
I told you $5,000 off a kid, right? How many people are going to go to the nearest foster home and be like, I want 10 kids?
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
So like, I guess what I'm trying to say
There
is,
has to be a happy medium, right?
yeah,
there has
maybe
to
not
be a
5K.
balance.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's like you get for the first kid, and then like any subsequent kid. I don't know. I'll let the politicians handle that one. I guess what I'm just trying to say is like, do you
Well-
see how this can kind of work either way?
Sure. No, I think you're hitting something that needs to be looked into. I would definitely research that, because I didn't know that, and I will be very honest. I want to say that my adoption was probably an exchange, so just for the betterment of me and my family, and I think that is such a beautiful thing, because back then, my mother, Margot, is a saint, and she just saw what was happening, took care of the situation and made the best of it.
So was your mother in proximity to her, and she just saw
They were
her?
best friends.
Wow.
Yeah, they were best friends, and they are now.
What is your
Which is cool.
relationship like with your biological mother? if
My
you don't mind
biological mother is a beautiful person. She's got education. She's got beauty. She's a really well-spoken individual, and just came from hard times. But those hard times were just at the expense of her kids at the moment, and that is not to blame. When I was younger, I didn't have that same look. I can guarantee you that. I actually was really upset that I wasn't, I couldn't find who I was and why I looked the way I looked. And as I got older, I'm like, oh, this is life. Life isn't linear. It's not straightforward. It's not always black and white. And then I think that's, so whenever I was able to meet my biological mother, I was like, there's no hard feelings. There's no like, oh my God. It's like, I get it. Like, and maybe that was me. Maybe that was because I'm a Sifu. I've studied and worked on my breath and mind and spirituality and connection and positivity. Maybe that helped. But I think it was, I get it. I understand it. Like, you couldn't sustain me at that time because of things you were going through. It's life.
It's a very mature outlook.
Yeah. When I was like 16, I didn't have that outlook. I was more of a crash out. You know what I mean? And
How old were you when you spoke to your biological mother for the first time?
so I
Was she like around you since?
Yeah,
like,
so not at-
since they were best friends.
not at first. She had to get some help, do her thing.
Forgive me.
Of course, yeah. She had to get some help, do her thing. Later in life, and I have a vague memory of meeting her when I was probably like 14 or 15.
But they didn't introduce her, like,
No, I think she kind of wanted to.
be around you.
Yeah, she just wanted to be around me
See
and
how
have her space. and see
how
me.
her son was doing.
Yeah, exactly. And then as I got older, I really was like, okay, I need to see, why do I look the way I look? Like, I just got really curious, and I talked to my adoptive mom, Margot, and I was
Was the
like,
curiosity negative though? Like, were you thinking to yourself, like, what's, like when you say you were curious, but what drove that curiosity? Did people at school say something? Was it all internal?
no, I think, man, I think I was a young kid that battled a lot of demons, and I think knowing that I was adopted was just one more thing for me to add to the hit list when I was younger. If that makes
Did it
sense.
anger you that you were
Yeah.
adopted?
Yeah, it was like the feeling of being unwanted and this and that, but that was not it. I wasn't unwanted. It just was a situation. Right? But that, you couldn't have told 16, 17-year-old Sifu that. It just wouldn't have worked.
But I would also even go as far as to say is like, okay, even if you didn't have the relationship with your biological mother, even if you didn't know anything about her, how could you say you're unwanted? You were literally adopted.
Right.
That is the definition of wanted.
Of being wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and again,
In fact, so wanted
that
that there's
someone
no
took
blood
over.
relation. They still wanted you.
right. Of course. Yeah, I agree. So the unwantedness came from just feeling like an imposter, looking in the mirror and not looking like anyone else around me. That was so odd. And the friends, let's be honest, I'm a black family, so it's like, you look like your dad, you look like your mom. We do look alike, which is odd. You kind of grow to look like people, I guess. It's weird. But me, I know that I don't, because there's no blood relation at all. And so I would look in the mirror and I was like, I don't think I'll ever see why I look this way. I don't think I'll ever understand my history. Do I have some degenerative disease, or do I have something that is in my bloodline, or is there cancer? I have no answers. You know what I mean? So it wasn't just seeing myself as, was it, does cancer run in my family? Does this run in my family? Is there sickle cell? You know what I mean? Like, I was like, there's no answers. I can get tested, but like genetically, I had no clue in the connection to
how
that.
much of me is me and how much of me is my parents.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly. So
that's a good question though, between nature and nurture, because then also you're being shaped by your adoptive parents.
oh man, and
But did you ever ask yourself how much of you was a reflection of them?
Oh, so much. So the reflection of my adoptive parents, my father taught me Tai Chi at 6 years old. And I've been doing it for 25 years of my life. That quite literally saved me in so many instances. Because when you do Tai Chi, which, let me clarify, it's Yang style Tai Chi. It's not what you see in the park. It's not like this fluff, foo-foo.
It's not touch button the park.
It's not. It's Yang style Tai Chi, so it's a martial art. And so he taught me this at a young age, and I'm his son, so he definitely put the work on me. I'm doing low horse stances for hours, and and doing Tai Chi circling and moving, and to me it was like brutal. It was brutal, but he was investing everything into me. So I'm like, wow, my father is giving me every single thing that he has when it comes to martial arts and stuff and attention. And it definitely was a better reflection of me, right? So I could look at that aspect of myself and say, wow, well, these people, my parents, gave me everything that they could, at the time. And I think that was the best investment, the Tai Chi and the many lessons that I would get from my mother just on not being an idiot, staying. Let me tell you, Margot is the funniest person you'll ever meet. Think of Cat Williams as a woman. That's my mom. But I know, but she's got depth too. Which Cat Williams does have some depth. But she would give me those hard lessons, and because there was a time where I was running with idiots. I was not a cool kid. And I developed this group of friends which I loved. And we would party, we would hang out, but it was not always, again, you're a kid, you do that stuff. But it was not always conducive to your health and the positivity and the Tai Chi way and all this stuff that they taught me.
It was at odds.
Yeah, it was at odds. And my mom would always pull my head out of my ass and make sure I was on the straight and narrow.
Sorry.
Yeah. And so, yes, so going back to what you're, go ahead.
We haven't brought up your biological father. Is that not a thing in the picture?
Are you ready for this?
Yes, please.
Okay. So this is the mystery that has been solved. This is the circle that has been finished. And this is a lifelong endeavor. Ever since I had a problem when I was younger, what do I look like? How do I look like? Parents knew my biological father. Or sorry. Let's rewind. They did not know my biological father. They knew my biological mother. My biological mother did not know who the father was. Okay? Certain situations, things happen, yada, yada. So I have no answers.
Even today?
That's what's different. 3 years ago, I decided I need to figure out what my ethnicity is. Like, what am I truly? And so I figured out that I'm 48% Nigerian, which is pretty cool. And then
I don't see it at all.
Yeah, I have no clue. But the proof is I've never sunburnt ever. And I when people tell me they're sunburned, I don't believe them. I just never get it. So if you guys know a black man that got sunburnt, put it in the comments.
That's the second most racist thing I've heard. The first was Kendall talking about how he plays 2K with only his black friends.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, yo, I sunburn.
I know it's possible. No, I know it's possible. That's just funny. But I think that so 3 years ago I decided to do Ancestry.com, figured out I was Nigerian and some other stuff. I did not know.
Were there, forgive me, any percentages that shocked you? Like 2% Irish?
Yeah, there were some
Yeah,
stuff. I was like, oh, I was hoping to see some other stuff, but Yeah.
What?
Nothing. But we have
Asian, Jewish? No.
Actually, I honestly thought I had part Asian. I'm serious. Look at my eyes, man.
Did you want it to be the case?
No, I didn't. I just thought I would because I was like, man, I have eye folds. I do. I do have
His
eye folds.
father is a Nigerian Asian. And that's where it comes
It's possible. It's possible. No, so 3 years ago, all that stuff happened. I looked it up, and then it started popping up on the right side. It was like almost 100% matched. You have a sister. I said, what? You have another sister. You have a father. And I was like, what is this talking about?
Ancestry.com can do that?
Yeah, because you can do DNA just to figure out who you are, and then you can also.
So you're submitting like samples to them.
Yeah.
Okay,
But you could also do like an extended one where it's like if there is family out there, it'll kind of show you a family tree.
No
and
shit.
So you might have a distant, far cousin, and you're connected somehow.
And
so I did it.
Dad after this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, ancestry.
Now's a good time to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And so I found that I had a whole nother family. And it was my biological father's side. And that blew my mind. Because I was like, there's no way that I found my whole other family. No one even knew. There was no way that anyone in my current family had any connection. It just was not possible. And then I did that, found them, and I started typing up. And then I stopped. And I was like, wait, I might be breaking up an entire family 30 years later. If I if I press send.
Because you don't know the circumstances.
I have zero clue. So I contemplated for a few days, and I was like, wait, maybe I don't send that,
Did you find him? When you say you were going to send it, who is...
The sister.
The sister.
So Chantel,
Okay.
Chantel is my sister, and I was going to send her a message, because she was the one that
Just
was...
be like, hey, I think I'm your brother.
Yeah, just sort of similar. Hey, I think, we're pretty matched on here. I think I'm your brother.
You don't sunburn either, right? Yeah,
Exactly. Just to clear it up, I know black people that sunburn, guys. I just never have. And I've been on the river before floating with.
Did you get a tan?
I
You a little darker?
I did. With my fiance, she took me floating, which is That's a thing. That's amazing. I love floating. You're on a tube. You're on your water all day, and you're just drinking beer. And I don't drink. I did have a few beers that day, but I don't normally drink it. And I thought that was so relaxing. So, anyways, we're getting a little off, but. I found my father. I did send the message. Chantel reached back out, and she was like, 2 things. 1, we're going to accept you and love you because we see this connection. 2, you're not here for money, are you?
Yeah, that's very fair.
It is very, because you just don't know what I'm coming for. And do
they live out in California?
They do live in California.
That's what I figured. Okay.
Yeah, they live in California, and they embraced me. They were like, hey, because I was flying out to California within the next month or so, and I was like, hey, would there be a possibility I'd meet up? Link up? Dude, we met up, and it was like we've been talking our whole lives. And I started laughing, and everybody in the room was looking at me laughing, and my biological father laughing. It's the same laugh. And then I had a tear run down my eyes, because I'm like, how in the world? 30 years we've been apart. We have the same laugh. We have similar cadence of talking.
It's your father, brother.
Right, exactly. And so that was a cool moment to figure out.
Well, did you talk to him about?
Yeah, we got all that figured out. Yeah. So there was
Does your biological mother? Does she know that you met him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have they talked?
No. I don't think they need to. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think that's just
forget me. I'm not trying to be too invasive. I'm just curious.
No, we're here to open the can of worms. I think that's just a book that just
doesn't need to be opened.
Yeah, it just happened, and I'm the product of that, and I'm proud to be alive. From that. It just
you exist without your consent.
Exactly. I think it's important that I'm here. I wouldn't have Kai. I wouldn't have a fiance. I wouldn't have all these cool adventures. And whatever happened, no matter good or bad, I'm here.
God bless.
Yeah, I'm here, but I've completed the circle, not for me. Just for me, for Kai. So now, no matter what, no matter where my son goes, we're circling back to the very thing you said. We started with fatherhood. I have completed the circle for my son. He knows my family, my adoptive family, my fiance's family. Now my blood family is connected. You know what I mean?
He's got 3 grandpas.
He's got
3 grandmas.
yeah, he's loaded.
Christmas
right?
is gonna be dope.
Yeah, he's loaded, right? And so I look at that. I'm like, okay, wow, what all this stuff it leads to my son having a full circle. If my son's traveling, he's got places to go no matter what. If he needs to confide in someone when he gets older and understand more about himself, he's got that. He's got access to that. So, anyways, I meet my biological family. We're talking, and I'm a business owner. My sister Chantel's a business owner. My brother's a business owner. My biological father was a business owner. And I'm just like, what are the odds of that? I know it seems kind of like,
No, it makes sense.
Yeah, right. And
No,
then,
it makes sense because it's like the natural. Some people are risk
it's
averse.
wired, right?
Yeah. Some people are risk averse and they don't necessarily want to take that leap.
Right.
It makes more sense that all of you are business owners than if like you were an entrepreneur and your sister worked like at Amazon and then your father
Right.
was an entrepreneur, but your other brother is deadbeat or
Sure,
whatever.
sure.
It's like either you guys are all gonna kind of fall in line,
Right.
or not to say that like we don't have autonomy, we do, but
Sure.
to me that's not a shock at all. If that's the case, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that because it was really eye-opening to see and to learn that. And my older sister, Chantel, and Lanisha, they're both so loving. It's ridiculous. I mean, they opened their arms for a stranger at the time, knowing I was blood, but a stranger at the time, to come into their home, to hang out, to get to meet each other, and just let me in on their life and what essentially I missed out on the 30 years. They kind of filled me in as much as you can, right? And some of the coolest things that happened from that. So my older sister, Chantel, she works for a famous basketball player. And I just thought that was so cool. But what I'm getting to is when I went out there, they treated us so well. They brought us to a football game. We got to play some game called The Cube or something like that wasn't even out on TV yet. And she just treated us so well. And I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? She said, your family.
God bless.
Yeah. And she works for Dwayne Wade. And I just was like, that's so cool. Like, I'm proud of her. And I'm proud of her and I just met her. But it's like, she did that all on her own, so I don't need to be proud of you. You get what I'm saying?
Well,
like,
you can have
I
pride
feel
in the
so
success of
happy
someone.
that she boards that path for herself to get there. And it's like, dude, I just want to sit back and watch y'all do your thing while I'm over here doing my thing. I just think that it's so powerful that I find my family. They're all doing so well. They're all older and on their own path. And I feel at peace. I feel harmony. I feel zen because the journey is over there with the search. And I've completed all the pieces. And for me, that moment, it felt like everything. Yeah.
You said that your kinship shares this bond for entrepreneurship and that it seems to be an affinity that you all hold.
Yeah.
When was that something that you wanted to pursue? How was starting up a gym or pursuing the path of not just martial arts, but then extending martial arts to other people, how did that go about?
Yeah. So my entrepreneurship started a long time ago. I worked at Walmart. Okay. I was cleaning. And it's a funny story how I worked at Walmart. I'm not the smartest person. You know what I mean? I really am not. So when I was filling out the application, I accidentally filled out to be a custodian. I didn't want to be. I just wanted to be a stalker. So anyways, they stalking.
What you wish for.
Stalking of food, not stalking people. Just to be clear, I'm not Joe Goldberg. But I would put, so I would work there, and then I seen this one thing happen. This manager came up to another custodian, and he started yelling at him and just treating him like dog crap. And for some reason, something clicked in my head. I'm like, there's no way in my life that I could be treated like that constantly. And so I was like, I'd rather be broke and poor and try to do this martial arts thing and break off than continue to be told what to do and yelled at by the man. It just didn't feel right. So my father taught me martial arts my whole life. He was in Maryland for military stuff. He worked with IT and did all that stuff. And so I went to the local park and recreation center. After that, I quit that job and went to the local park and recreation center and said, hey, I'd like to teach Tai Chi. I'd love to teach Tai Chi here. Cool. We don't have that program. You can do it. Okay. They put an email blast out. We had some students come in. I started teaching there, and I'm like, that is crazy. I mean, it took several weeks to just get students.
Of course. You got to build it up.
And build it up, and I'm like...
But if you build it, they come.
That's it, but that's it. And I was like, wow, I've got 3 students. I got 4, I got 5 students. I got 6 students. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, I'm not bankrolling. We know that. But I am also controlling the outcome. Because of the injustice I saw, I just didn't enjoy that. I just didn't like to see that.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is there an amount of money, a salary that you could be paid to where you would deal with that?
Probably not.
Wow.
Yeah.
$1 million a year. I have a theory.
I think that there is amount, now that I have a son.
Yeah. Now that you have responsibility.
Yeah, I think the son helps, obviously, and obviously my fiance would kick me in my booty if I didn't accept that job. But I think no matter what, the money I got from some fun offer like that would resort into me becoming an independent business owner.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I have a theory that says there's no such thing as a bad job, only bad salaries. And I live by that.
Wow.
Like if you tell me
I like that.
You go, Ariane, what do you do for a living? And I say to you, I smear shit on my face for a living.
Right.
You're like,
yikes,
yeah.
Yeah.
If I tell you I get paid $250,000 a year or $500,000 a year.
Right. I'm going to be like, well, how often?
Hold on,
How bad is it?
How smelly is the shit?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I'll start inquiring.
Now we're negotiating,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, you start inquiring. I see what you're saying.
I say that because like I actually say that the inverse works. Like if you pay someone a menial amount, you actually do not pay them enough to yell at them.
Sure.
You don't pay them enough. They're not justified to sit there and take that shit. But if I'm paying you 6 figures or multiple 6 figures, bitch, you better sit there and take it.
Right.
You better get that shit
right.
right.
I see what you're
Does
saying.
Does that make sense?
The number difference.
I think that's the variable that makes
change,
it.
yeah.
And it's not even the job. Like if you tell me you're a custodian at Walmart, but you're making 6 figures,
right? That's
a good job, right? But if you tell me you're a lawyer and you're making $50K, you're like, oh, what the fuck kind of lawyer are you? Do you see how that works?
Do you think that it would boil down to happiness?
Happiness is not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm talking about what do we in society consider a good job, right? So like OnlyFans is the prime example.
Right.
We all sit here and we're like, oh, I would never do that. I would do nothing.
I don't judge that at all. I think
we say that, but brother, if there was a market for my beehole pigs, you better believe. All right, I'm a businessman trying to do business. So
that's why we have all these fancy cameras in
brother.
Hold on.
I'm working my way up to it. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Pornhub.
Oh, God. That's hilarious. Yeah, I agree. I think there is a number that people would accept, and I think that there's a tolerance level that comes with that. That either
it
goes
has to
up
come
or
with
down.
the lifestyle.
Of course. Yeah.
Forgive me because I interrupted. What you were essentially saying was like you were at Walmart, you're custodian, and you're seeing this guy being treated poorly. You're like, dude, fuck that. Even if it's not necessarily the most financially fortuitous, I am not going to put myself in a position like this.
Yeah, it was not financially fortuitous at all. I mean, it was the worst best decision because I quit without having a second like backup. I didn't have another job. I just was out a job, and then I was like, well, tomorrow I don't have a job, so I have time to go to the park and recreation center. And then I hoped that they didn't have a program already like I could offer. And my plan was go here in my town first, and then go to each town surrounding, saying, hey, do you guys have Tai Chi? Do you guys offer personal training? Do you guys,
Well, luckily for you, the first one
was a hit. And that lucked out because my father also had fostered a relationship with them. He would teach Tai Chi in the park. He would do this, and then he left. And so you have this young kid that's just, I mean, how could you take a young kid as a business owner, right? You know, I was
easily.
Yeah, you could, but it was difficult because I didn't have my head screwed on right, you know. So I didn't have the look, I didn't have the feel, right? And so when I went there, I was like, hey, I'd love.
What is the look of an entrepreneur?
Well, if you want to get into that, there is no look of an entrepreneur.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I'm talking about back then, that was my mind state. So when I talk,
Forgive me.
no, of course, when I talk, I talk in many different levels. I talk in the previous Sifu, the mid Sifu, and the current Sifu, and even sometimes the future Sifu. So my old mindset was very like this. The older I got and the more aware I got, I was open-minded to understanding like there is no specific look to certain things like that. Yeah.
Forgive me. I was just curious.
No, I love it. Poke and prod, man. So that led to so much more freedom though. Getting out of that 9 to 5, because I used to work at Buckle, selling rock revivals and
Getting by, brother.
yeah, doing all my stuff.
The hardest I ever
tap
worked.
out shirts,
The hardest I ever worked in my life.
Yeah.
Was a summer that I worked at Breadco. Panera
Yeah,
Bread.
dude.
Dude, that summer I got paid $7.98 an hour, and I would sweat.
He
I was
probably
working
made
so hard.
like 30,000 steps a day at least.
Dude, easily. I
Yeah.
remember it was a workout, and at the time, it was like, I was a young kid, so I was like, oh,
Right.
this is great. I'm moving around.
Right.
But, dude, when I look back at that, I think to myself, oh, my God, how hard I worked for, like, not, dude.
For pennies.
Dude,
for
I basically
pennies.
would max out my student credit card. It had $300 limit.
Yeah.
And every week, I would get paid, like, $330. So, like, I would basically take the $300, pay off my credit card, and then I had, like, $30 for, like, gas.
Yeah.
You know? And then
Yeah.
I was be back to broke.
Yeah.
So then I would be spending my credit card. But
Yeah.
to your point, like, dude, I think, can I say something? I think
Yeah.
that's good for everyone to
Of
handle.
course.
Like, I think you need those jobs that make you go, is this what I want to do?
Yep.
Is this what I want to be?
Yep.
Like, this isn't,
Everybody should work retail at one point in their life.
or a service job.
Or a service.
Yeah,
job.
go be a server. You're gonna
Yeah,
be a better
seriously.
person.
No, seriously, you will. I think retail, busser or hostess or server, like something for a little while, because I think it does. You get to see human nature in the best light and the far worst light.
Yeah, both
And-
generosity and scarcity.
Yeah. So I think that is great. But yeah, so I started building the business. I moved forward with, man, we got up to about 15 clients where we were training, which was great, and teaching them Tai Chi and teaching them like mobility and
What's
and
the age group,
flexibility.
if you don't mind me asking?
Say
When you
it one more time.
When you say students, like, what's the age group of these people?
We started out with like upper 20s to
Oh, so like adults,
70,
adults.
yeah, adults, yeah, 70s, 80s. So our oldest one was 81. Her name was Jean.
God
She
bless.
smoked cigarettes every single day. She went on cruises. I remember Jean. I don't think she's still with us, but I remember her because she would smoke cigarettes and she could stand up and hold a kick. We got her to be able to hold a kick out straight with all her balance, because we would work on posture and alignment. And then when she's done, I'm heading on a cruise.
God bless Gene.
I said, Gene, I want to be like you, Gene. You know what I mean? Because you are
She's just doing side quests.
she's just doing side quests. But as a young kid, I was like, man, she's so just fine with how she is.
She's
love
cool.
it. Yeah. And so, but that was another thing, is teaching different people, adults, gave me that more mature mindset, because I was still
How old were you at the time?
like 17 at this point.
Oh, dude, you're a kid.
Yeah.
You're a kid.
Yeah, I was a kid. Maybe I was like 16, 17. So yeah, I'm a kid. And so I'm seeing all these adult interactions because I'm teaching them at a high level. When I teach Tai Chi, I've been doing it for multiple years at this point. I've been doing it for 25 plus years, but I'm teaching at a high level, and you're seeing people learning the moves, getting the breathing down. It's just working. And then from there, I just think the business started doing better and better, but I realized that there's no money in Tai Chi.
Well, there's not a whole lot of money in a lot of martial arts.
Yeah, there isn't, and that's where I was like, well, if the local grab BJJ gym or the MMA gym is barely doing it, I think the Tai Chi gym's definitely not going to make it. So when I got the idea of personal training, mixing it with boxing, kickboxing, that really solidified it. That really gave me like a full circle. So whether you walk into my gym and you want to do Tai Chi, you can do it. If you want to do boxing, if you want to do kickboxing, if you just want to lose weight or gain muscle, you have a full circle variety. That took me a little while.
You know what
I
we
didn't
call
do
that in business?
Diversity.
Horizontal integration.
Yeah, horizontal integration. I like that.
So
But-
you're providing multiple services
Right.
that are still under the same umbrella.
Exactly. And whatever one catches fire, the best. You just kind of pushed marketing on that.
Do you have an affinity towards teaching Tai Chi though? Like, so I can understand that you can have an affinity towards all these things. So my question is not necessarily, do you not like doing personal training? My question is more, do you have more fun teaching Tai Chi versus boxing, kickboxing versus the strength and conditioning for
That's a
personal
hard
training?
question to answer, because now Yang style Tai Chi for me is not like, how do I answer this? I feel like it's taking a piece of me and giving it to the student. So I'm very selective with my students. Our Tai Chi program is not big. And I can say that I don't even promote my Tai Chi program because it's more of a long time investment. So I love investing in those people that are going to do Tai Chi for the rest of their lives. Right?
Okay.
Boxing and kickboxing is the funnest thing I can do, because I see the kids growing from it. I see the anger leaving. I see the stress.
It's an outlet.
I see the stress going away from the young kids that just don't know what's going on in their lives. They just get to punch something for an hour. To the adults that are just like, I really want to do this to protect myself. To the fighters that want to get in and try, to box and do these things. Like, I love that. But when it comes to Tai Chi, I'm very like, I've been doing it so long. I don't openly teach anymore. My father openly teaches. I have 3 students that are considered like disciples or like really learning the art and taking it seriously. And that's what I enjoy. Right? So there's a BJJ guy. His name is Neil Winkler, and he's a black belt. And so we started trading off. He would teach me jiu-jitsu, and I would teach him Tai Chi. And man, that is an unfair advantage. When you teach someone that has jiu-jitsu already and you give them Tai Chi, which is just being able to relax. So, if someone's trying to get you into Kimura, you can kind of roll out of it and you can figure it out, as opposed to being strict and raw like that. So he was already eons ahead of me, and I'm like, well, I can't even sweep you. I can't take you down. But it was
hold up. He's also a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Fair enough.
Which is like, you know what I mean? You're kind of overlooking that a little bit. It's like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
A black belt in jiu-jitsu is a fucking legit martial artist. You know what
it
I mean?
is. And I will say jiu-jitsu, there's no hiding.
No. The mats will show you who you are.
There's no hiding. And that brings me to another topic. We can get back to the business, but this is what I hate about Tai Chi, is what it has become in the mainstream.
What has it become?
If you just look up Tai Chi versus MMA, you'll see this fake master getting his booty beat, his ass beat. Sorry, I figured you don't mind that.
I like booty.
But he gets his butt kicked. We forgot he's got an OnlyFans, guys. $5.99. You can subscribe today.
Whoa, how dare you?
Yeah, okay, all right.
$6.15.
Move the comma. Oh, God. So that's funny. We have to really, though, you have to look at there's no hiding in jiu-jitsu. So we'll go back a little bit. And that's what really brought my zest out for Tai Chi, is because I'm like, oh, there's not many people in the world doing Tai Chi the way I'm doing it. And the people that are out there saying that they could fight with it and take you down with it and do all this are showing examples with compliant people.
Meaning someone who's like kind of a
student.
Moving dummy. Like a moving dummy.
Like,
I'm going to allow you to do this to me.
Can you throw the punch right here at my nose? Go ahead, throw it.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to parry this, and then I'm going to move the... What?
Yeah, unrealistic.
What the heck? I just did 5 moves with 1 punch. Do you know how fast a jab is?
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man.
Holds you to think the second punch isn't coming behind that.
Yeah, and so what I see is these Adam Eisners of the world that are really taking, listen, I'm calling Adam Eisner out. Like, he is one person that I believe is a beautiful explain. Like, he can explain it so well. The chi and the energy and his explanations are wonderful, but his martial arts is crap. He has no defense.
This is an individual? Adam?
This is, Adam Eisner. He is a well-known Tai Chi enthusiast. And again, I can compliment and also not compliment at the same time. If he had a podcast explaining the way he moves and his form and the energy, I would listen to it, but I would not ever send anyone there to learn the self-defense aspect of it. Because does that make sense?
Yeah, you don't think it's. I mean, perhaps I'm not doing it service. You feel as if there are holes in his application, not theory. He understands the theory of Tai Chi. He can explain it and articulate it properly. Perhaps he even understands it at a high level. It's when it comes to execution that he's a little faulty.
He zaps people, man.
Zaps people?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Do you have a computer? Can you look stuff up?
Yeah.
Look up Adam Meisner. Just look that up.
He zaps people?
Yeah. So like, he'll give a demonstration.
Explain that. What is zaps
Yeah.
people?
So he'll give a demonstration and someone will touch him and then they'll just hop back and fall.
Oh, bullshito. Okay.
Yeah. And so and so to me, I'm like, what is going on? Because the realisticness of Tai Chi is being so clouded. This is my problem. This is where we go back to it. It's like, I cannot believe that people have bought into this. And there's going to be, there's a club. There's going to be people in your comments that are going to be attacking this. That are going to be going crazy about this.
We're going to turn off the comments on Pornhub.
Yeah, if you upload it to that. Because of what I said, the polarizing, his explanations are phenomenal. But his execution is terrible.
Brother, you lost me when you're talking about zapping people.
Pardon me. Yeah, I know. See, I'm not defending him, but I'm
like
saying
the force field people and stuff like that.
He's not force field level, but
I'm just saying, like, bullshito comes in all shapes and sizes.
Yes.
By the way, stolen valor is what it's called. Should exist in jiu-jitsu as well, brother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of black belts, self-appointed black belts that have schools, and they are teaching some bullshito.
Yeah. Well, that's what Meisner is. Again, I believe that I have proven so much into this art where I can be selective to who I teach and how I teach it. I usually will teach people that are jiu-jitsu or in other martial arts or things like that because it's supplementary to your
It's
art.
cross-pollination.
That's what it is, right? It's MMA, mixed martial arts. So you want to supplement their art, their journey with the breath work, with the mindfulness, with the power and connection of the waist and the rooting and the posture. You're just enriching their experience. Things that they do, you're highlighting and pointing out, changing a few things that can be beneficial, and then it just locks in like a key. And so that's where I thrive and that's where I love. But the thing is and I can say this, I am one of the best at push hands in the entire world, which push hands is a 2-person form. It's like a Tai Chi grappling. I'm undefeated in some circuits. And there's so much to be talked about here, and I'll say this quickly. I can't fathom getting into a fight and getting beat up so bad, like every single Tai Chi video you see. It just would not happen.
What do you mean?
So I don't know if you throw clips on this, but if you ever throw a clip on this, Tai Chi versus MMA, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
To where that it's like they've never trained with any outside opposing force. Right? And so what I mean
realistic, like they never sparred.
They've never sparred. I spar all the time.
How do you do martial arts without a sparring aspect?
I don't get it.
Because that's the definition of application.
Right. And so let's get back to this, because here it is. Tai Chi is great for if you're trying to really rejuvenate your mental, physical, and spiritual health.
Well, there's a lot of benefits to all martial arts.
Right.
That isn't necessarily competitive. I agree with you.
And that's where I'm getting at. But if you say that you are trying to teach someone how to defend themselves, that's where I stop you. That's where it's like you're going to get someone hurt. That's where you get the McDojos. You know what I mean? The McDojos
they're
of the world.
They're trying to do self-defense through Tai Chi.
You will get hurt.
Exclusively?
You can do exclusive Tai Chi if it's traditional.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, are they attaching Tai Chi in conjunction with other martial arts to then say this is the self-defense portion?
No.
So it is Tai Chi exclusively.
It's Tai Chi exclusively
versus. Yeah.
Right. Versus XYZ.
Well, can I expand on that? And
sure.
I'm interested in what you say. I would say that about all martial arts. Meaning,
sure.
if you teach any martial art in isolation and say that this is all you need for self-defense, you're lying to people.
Lying.
Boxing is great, right? Until you're a 100-pound girl.
Right.
And then you're going to want jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
Well, jiu-jitsu is great, right? Until you're in an atmosphere where you got concrete and it's not grass.
Right.
And maybe that guy has friends.
have
And while
to
you're
have
trying to do a
diversity.
triangle choke, his buddy kicks you like a soccer ball in your head.
Stomps your teeth
Or maybe
in.
the guy
Yeah.
just drops you on the concrete floor. So like I here's the problem that I personally have. So I was an amateur fighter and I was a professional fighter.
Oh,
right?
nice.
I was 10-0 as an amateur, 6-2 as a professional mixed martial artist.
Yeah, man.
I would never tell anybody that what I did was a fight. It was sport. It was the closest thing, in my opinion, to a fight.
Right.
But real fights are like biting and eye gouging.
Yes.
And they're
I'm so glad you
nasty
said
and
that.
gritty, right? So like, I want to be careful how I say this. I am very confident that if the occasion were to ever arise, that I
Right.
could adequately defend myself.
You have the tools.
But
and
I
knowledge.
wouldn't do it with just my wrestling or just my boxing or just my jiu-jitsu.
Right.
It'd be a combination of all these tasks.
Right.
I would only exacerbate that to all martial arts. I had Sid Gion, who's a 10th degree karate, Kempo karate black belt. I've had Mop on. I've had Mike Rogers on.
Right.
And all these guys would all attest to you that, like, you know, black belts in jiu-jitsu, karate, no one would ever tell you that one martial art in isolation is adequate, is enough.
Fair enough. I agree, and I agree to the point of I am probably an outcast for that because I've taken my Tai Chi and I spar and I do this and I do that because I realize that.
Yeah.
But there's a mystic to Tai Chi. There's a mystical realm to Tai Chi that people buy into, which you should never lose the magic of an art. I believe that you should always think that this is a magical thing, meaning when you go into class, it's just a wonderful feeling. You enjoy it.
Yeah.
But there's a mystical buy-in to Tai Chi that I can push this and then you fall over. And there's a belief, McDojo, right? We talked about that. But that's the problem is when you can't separate that.
How do they sell this to people?
I want to know.
Who the fuck
the
sits
Jake
there and
Maces
goes,
of the world, the
yeah.
Atomizers of the world. Please tell
Zap
me how.
me, daddy.
Yes,
What are we
please
talking
tell
about?
me how you make these courses because they've made
I want to see
thousands.
I want to be careful how I say this because I don't want to belittle anybody or bully anybody.
Sure.
But I'd be very interested to see the makeup of their schools. Like, I want to see the students.
Yeah.
I want to see who these people are. I
Right.
guarantee you there's not a six-pack in that room.
Yeah, right.
No one
Okay.
has... The
So
T
now-
levels are below average.
So now we're getting somewhere.
I'm not trying to be mean.
No, we're getting somewhere that's interesting. There's a couple groups on Facebook I post on Tai Chi Connection and a few other ones, and I posted that. Okay, I'm going for a run and I'm do some light lifting, and then some of the comments were, "The lifting's gonna mess with your chi," and I said, "Well, I would imagine that having a little bit more muscle tone would actually allow me to connect a little bit deeper." You know, and so there's a fight against lifting. There's a fight against those activities because they think it's counterproductive. So my whole point in this is
Because they don't lift.
They don't lift, bro. But my whole point of this is
You can't make a
hold on.
comment from ignorance.
Hold on. I think that this is the problem. That Tai Chi, people want to see it destroy another art. And they believe that it can, which it could if you actually took it out and practiced it and sparred with other arts and did things. But I think they just want a purist to do it. Someone that is just purely Tai Chi. But here's the problem. What does that look like?
Well, it depends on what art it's going up against.
But what is it? I guess what I'm saying is there is no look that's going to satisfy everyone.
Of course.
Am I soft? Am I soft? Yeah. Is this guy going to be flowing or is he super quick? There's no look, so you can't satisfy anyone. So I think that if you take this art and you mix it and blend it with other arts, if you want to take it to the combative route, that's the way to go. Right? So people will look at me and they'll say, hey, he spars and he grapples, so he's not Tai Chi. I've been doing Tai Chi for 25 years of my life, so everything I do is Tai Chi.
But do you think
see what
it's
I'm
the
saying?
sunk cost fallacy, which is essentially the sunk cost fallacy is like they will hate on the other things because they've sunk so much cost into whatever it is that they value. So like someone who's been spending 5 years, let's say, doing Tai Chi and not doing boxing or
Right.
wrestling or jiu-jitsu, they have this sunk cost fallacy and saying like, no, I made the right choice. It's you guys who are wrong. Tai Chi does work. This guy doesn't do Tai Chi properly. If he did Tai Chi properly, it would work against this guy or that guy.
I've heard that 1,000 times. You should repeat that.
Yeah, sunk cost fallacy. Dude, it exists in everything. By the way, you want to know where it's big? Jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many jiu-jitsu guys that think they're fighters, and I'm like, guys, listen, you're badass. You take limbs home, all that other stuff, shut the fuck up, because you've never been hit in the face. I'm sorry.
Right. But wouldn't you think that I've been doing Tai Chi for 25 years. So let's just say today you're like, hey, I'm going to teach you how to throw a jab and a cross. That jab and the cross is going to be more Tai Chi for me than it is a jab and a cross from MMA. Does that make sense? Because of my foundation.
Yeah, you're going to do it with how you know how to do it.
With more principle from my foundation than the foundation of, let's just say, Muay Thai, right? Or kickboxing, right? So you might tell me, twist your fist and extend your shoulder. But when I do it, I might feel it from my waist a little bit better.
Yeah, there's going to be nuance. Yeah.
Okay,
of course.
Right. So what I'm saying is I will always be Tai Chi, but I will always absorb other arts.
Yeah.
Right?
It should be that way.
Exactly. So that's where I'm getting to.
If you're a true practitioner of martial arts,
right?
Okay, not arts. And when you were talking about earlier, like the mysticism or whatever, I do think so. For the longest time, when I was practicing martial arts, I always looked at it from the perspective of a fighter because it was always combative, so it was always competition. And I never had the art portion of it. I always looked at this as like a means to an end to win fights, right?
Right.
Then when I was like in the later half of my career / closer to retirement, I started to realize the true value in the time that I've spent in this, the value from my networking, the people that I've met, the bonds that I have formed, the social interactions that I had, the amount of healing for my soul by being around like-minded individuals that were also on the same path as me was very good for a young man. Right. Not to mention the absolute physical monster that was being produced because of this. I was 100%. Never in the best shape of my life.
Sure.
Like I was never in, like, 26-year-old Arion when he was fighting was the best version physically of Arion. Right. Everything else since is going to be inferior, and I know that, which is a tough pill to swallow. But the better way to look at it is like, I'm glad that I got to that height.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is.
Pardon me.
When I got done with competition, I realized that like that was the martial part of it.
Right.
Now comes the arts.
Right.
And now I start to have more of a reverence to the theories, the science behind it, the emotional intelligence behind it, the value of it for youth. You know what I mean? So I will say that doing anything is better than nothing.
Agree.
But you cannot blindly love anything in this world. And martial arts is also one of those things.
Yeah, and that's where I have a conflict. So going back to your initial question, Tai Chi, Yang style Tai Chi, there's 5 styles. So I do Yang. There's Qin, Wu Hao, Sun. And we've learned it traditionally. And so I think my issue has been I cannot teach this to the masses because if I did that, it dilutes it. I need to teach it to the people that are a fighter or a football player that wants to play better football.
What do you mean by dilute? I don't understand that.
So I wouldn't want to do like a massive class.
Why not?
Right? Because each individual person will be sitting there for way too long because the detail, right? So I want one-on-one. I want maybe 2 people in one class.
I would make that argument with any martial art. Doing a 10-person, 20-person, 30-person boxing class versus a one-on-one with someone, they're going to get so much more value.
Of course, and this is never just exclusive to Tai Chi.
So when you say dilute, you don't mean dilute the martial art, you mean dilute the training, the education process.
Right, because
totally agree.
Let's say Arion has been sitting there for 10 minutes while I'm talking to, John. And you're like, all right, cool.
No, you don't got to sell me on one-on-ones. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
By the way, all the best fighters, guess what they have?
Right.
3 or 4 different coaches. This is my striking coach. This is my jiu-jitsu coach.
Yeah, exactly.
This is my this coach. And by the way, they get all the one-on-one that they want.
Yeah, and I think that's what's missing in the art of Tai Chi is one-on-one for learning the forms and breathing and moving and meditation and motion. Now, if you come to me and say, I want to be a fighter, then that should be another segment. Meaning, yes, you learn all this stuff, the breath work, the movement, and the meditation to motion, and now we're going to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
Can you do basic boxing? Can you do basic footwork? Can
you stay on your feet?
Can you stay on your feet? And so this is the thing that I think separates me as a Tai Chi martial artist, is that if we're going to that level, you can't just say, I know how to throw a punch, I know how to grapple. No, you need to know the basics of the other arts. And also now you need to know how to apply your Tai Chi. So, anyways, I digress. We can go into that for hours. But
I had my J.D. Amato, shout out and rest in peace. He was the best first coach I ever could have had. He always told me like this: you will always have your base, you will always have your strength. Because I was a wrestler.
Right.
He's like, I'm not telling you that you need to learn boxing to knock people out. I'm not telling you that you need to learn jiu-jitsu to submit people. I'm not telling you what to do. But what I am telling you is you need to know enough boxing to not get knocked out.
That's exactly what
I
just
said.
said.
You need to know enough jiu-jitsu to not be submitted. You need to know enough of these things to stay alive long enough to kill the other man.
Or else it's foreign. And you're like, wait, what's he doing?
Well, no.
Why is he taking me down?
All of my knowledge will mean nothing if I'm dead.
Right.
So first, I tell everybody this. Like whenever I coached people, you want to know the very first thing I would do?
It's cool that you coach. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I coach high school wrestlers now, but like for a moment there, I was coaching fighters. The very first thing I would do, I wouldn't teach them jab or cross or anything. I teach them how to parry.
Yeah,
the proper parry. And like everyone wants to come in for the first day and they want to hit the bag. Yo, dummy.
Right.
How about let's not get hit first? Because I say, how do you win a fight? They're like, knock them out. I'm like, no, you don't win a fight by knocking them out. You win a fight by hitting them one more time than they hit you. So if they hit me 0 times, I only have to hit them once.
The funny thing is the hardest thing. So if we went on a street interview right now and we told people to throw a jab, most people could. They could probably throw a cross.
No, not properly.
Doesn't matter. They could do it, right?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, if they have 2 limbs, yes.
Sure, right. So if you're like, hey, punch, they could punch.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, throw a hook. They could probably throw a hook. Doesn't matter if it looks good or not.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, can you do a slip to a roll to a shuffle?
You're gonna lose it. You're gonna lose them.
They have no clue what that
Slip.
means.
What am I slipping on? A banana peel?
Right. So that's what I'm saying is I'm reinforcing what you're saying is the defensive aspect is the hardest part, but it is the thing that wins the fight.
Yeah.
Knowing how to slip and then strike from there with a cross or whatever. Being conscious of that and working on the parries is smart actually. Because now you're one step ahead. So I really like that. And we have a similar style there when it comes to teaching or methodology.
Everyone wants to learn how to hit people. I'm trying to teach you how to not be hit.
Yeah.
And then if you live in the fight long enough, then you can start talking about how you're gonna put the finish on your opponent. But everyone always wants to envision themselves the hammer. Right. And that's, I think, human nature.
100%.
But sometimes there will be, without a doubt, if you go down the path of martial arts, you will be the nail.
Yeah.
Day 1, day 1,000, day 10,000. You will be the nail. Learn how to be the nail.
There's a funny, learn how to be the nail. That's a great, I like that. There's a funny moment. I always tell my people that want to take it to that next level and do martial arts for self-defense, they just need to get hit and they need to move and they need to do all that stuff. You won't see that in Tai Chi very often. It's just, there's no sparring. There's not much sparring. But I spar, I have fun, I grapple, I do jiu-jitsu, and many people are like, well, why don't you ever do UFC or MMA or like a shamrock fight or, something like that? I've honestly never had an interest to. I just haven't.
That's fair.
But the funniest thing came up and actually piqued my interest. I met the owner of Street Beefs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Where we had a video call with me, Jerry, and
that's the
guy.
one where they do it on the grass. With
yeah. And I actually got intrigued with that, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'd ever go to a ring like a professional UFC fight or
a cage.
A cage, right? Not UFC, but a cage like a NFA or something like that. But I would probably do a Street Beefs fight.
That's hilarious because I would say that Street Beefs is like more visceral than a cage fight.
Right.
It's the same thing I say to like the bare knuckle boxers where they're like,
yeah,
well, I don't want to do boxing. I want to do bare knuckle boxing. I'm like, brother.
No, it's harsh.
Fuck
yeah.
that.
It just looks so fun. And so, but again, I'm not interested in that enough to pursue it, but it is something that I'm 32, so maybe before like 35 I might do something.
I'm also 32. I've been in the shit. I'm never gonna get punched in the face again.
Yeah,
unless I deserve it.
I have no desire there, but I will say there was a time where I invited Daryl Cobb to the gym. That was such a fun spar. Now let me tell you. So
he's actually a pretty cool guy. He's a pretty cool guy.
And if there's something I don't know about him, I don't know. You know, he's a pretty fun guy. He's a great martial artist. But he came there and he was supposed to teach. I was going to have him show some of the newer kids how to do basic stuff and work with them, and no one showed up that day.
Oh no!
So it's just me and him. And I'm like, well, I can't. I mean, I can't just have him come out. So I was like, all right, well, let me put the gloves on. I was like, dude, Daryl is good.
Yeah.
And we were doing
Daryl's legit, dude.
Yeah, we were doing a light. So shout out to Daryl Cobb. You're awesome. That was a fun spar that we had, and it was exciting. But it showed me the levels to this thing. You know what I mean? That if I was just Tai Chi and never, ever, ever broached the subject of sparring or doing anything, Daryl would have just eviscerated me.
Well, here's the thing.
You know what I mean? Or anybody that sparred me would eviscerate me because I wouldn't have that connection.
Well, let's just say two things because I know Daryl Cobb and he's been on the podcast. And here's what I'm going to say: Daryl Cobb is a motherfucker. Like that's not Daryl Cobb is.
What do you mean by that?
In the greatest of senses.
Okay.
Yeah. Like when I say motherfucker, I mean
he's a dog.
He will fuck up 99% of human beings on this planet.
100%.
But here's the thing: I would also say, and I don't mean this as an insult. I have never once in my life considered a spar anywhere near close to a fight because it's the intentions. People say, like, what's the difference between a sparring match and a fight? The intentions. When I'm sparring with you, the intention is I want to get good rounds in. I'm going to try to get my shit in.
And cardio.
I mean, all the stuff. I don't want. I want to work on my defense, so I don't want to get hit with your stuff.
Right.
I want to work on my offense, so I want to land my stuff. But I'm not trying to hurt you.
Right.
I'm not trying to knock you out. I'm pulling the punches. Then when you get into a fight, it's like, no. I want to feel your cheekbone.
I want to break you.
It's completely different.
Yeah, it is.
So here's what I will say about sparring anybody. I think that in an isolated environment where it's just you and him, does not shock me that you had a pleasant experience because there's no negative intention there. I will say this. That might be the best way to spar.
Oh,
where it's just you two. Yeah. And like no one else. Because I've seen sparring matches go from like that.
We're gonna do a light spar
to ego because people start looking around and like, ooh, he caught him with that jab.
Yeah,
and then you hit me with some shit, so now I gotta return the favor.
Yeah,
and now sparring turns into a fight.
Of course.
Every sparring match that I've had where it was in isolation, it was just me and that person.
It's always great.
It was always the best spars.
Yes,
it was always the best spars.
No, I could agree to you there.
You eliminate all the bullshit.
Sure. No, that's
funny that you had Daryl Cobb though. That's a fucking tough round.
And it was so unexpected because I was like, he's just coming to train and teach, and I saw him at Club Fitness, and I saw him doing shadow boxing. I walked up to him, we talked. I said, man, I'd love to have you come out. There's some new students I have, and they would love, I think it'd be inspiring. And literally no one shows up, so I'm like, let's get some rounds in, and it was great. It was fun, But again, most people in Tai Chi wouldn't even say that. If they saw that dude striking, they'd be like, I could probably take him. I just won't approach him. You know what I mean?
Bullshit.
So, yeah, exactly. So anyways, I love my art.
Forgive me. I will. That is so foreign to me. Foreign.
And that's why I'm bringing it up because I couldn't. God, that'd be so weird. That'd be like me taking you to a gym I really love, and you see everybody sparring, and you're like, I just don't think I'm going to do this. You would never do that.
Right now or when I was fighting?
Well, okay.
Now.
Maybe when you were fighting.
I'm down to clown still. Don't get me wrong. I'm down for a good time.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is you have the skills to spar, or you have the skills to roll.
Oh, I'm not afraid of any man on this planet. Okay. I agree with you
that's
there.
That's what I'm getting at is the fear and the unknown is what caps people in Tai Chi for combat. Now, let's be real. Tai Chi for mental and physical and spiritual health is phenomenal. All arts are, but this art is something I'm invested into. Being able to align the breath with the meditation and motion, I think that's just powerful.
Well, I think some martial arts are better than that. Than others in that.
Sure.
I don't think boxing is a good meditation art.
Sure.
I think it's a good practical one.
Of course.
But I'm not going to boxing to learn how to breathe or anything.
Right. So if you take that route and you're like, I just need to be closer to myself, mentally, physically, spiritually, I think Tai Chi is a good route.
Yeah. It's also a good form of meditation.
It is. And it's meditation and motion. And I just have a bone to pick with people that take it too far combatively that they've never been in there.
Well, they're harming your martial art.
Yeah.
They're harming your martial
And
art.
that's what it is.
If
And
I
so
YouTube Tai Chi and I see some Zap
Yeah.
motherfuckers, I'm out.
you're out.
I'm out. That's some bullshito. I'm like, all right, well, Tai
Yeah.
Chi's.
And that
Now, if to the uninitiated, they're like, well, Tai Chi's was stupid. Get rid of that.
Right.
Keep it honest. Just
So-
be honest.
Yeah, keep it honest. Exactly. So that's where we could end that, because I have a lot more to say, but I think
When I shook his hand, I did feel like a little electricity.
there's a little zap.
I was like, was that a Zap?
Yeah, it's just a little bit, guys. So it's real.
No, I can understand the affinity and the reverence that you have for your martial art. I can also understand wanting to defend its integrity. So none of this shocks me.
Man.
I would say I'm kind of sorry that that's even a thing. You
is.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
But it is a thing with all martial arts. I will say that, like I said, there's a lot of guys that are self-appointed black belts that then open up their own jiu-jitsu gym and they get guys hurt.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of guys that say they're Golden Glove champion boxers, and you see them hold mitts, and you're like, brother, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
right.
So I think so long as there's something to be gained from notoriety or the respect of like a certain level of achievement, there will always be people that do that stolen valor shit.
Sure.
It happens in the Marines, the
that's
Army. It's the same thing in martial
I've not
arts.
heard it like
Yeah,
that
stolen valor.
for martial arts. I've heard it for military, so I will use that. I like that. I like that.
Same, not same, right?
Right.
The concept is the
Yeah,
same.
the concept is under. Yeah, I could agree to that. So
I think if someone were to look up this podcast today, the number one reason, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Sure.
would probably be because of the endeavors that you've undertaken
Sure.
in terms of Survivor and Mr. Beast Games,
Right.
right? I'm going to I want to have this part of this conversation, but I'm going to separate the two. So if you don't mind, let's unpack Survivor first.
Yeah.
And then I will talk about Mr. Beast Game, because I feel like they're like a Venn diagram. They have some similarities, but vastly different things, right?
Yeah.
So first, I don't even understand how someone even gets picked for Survivor.
Okay.
Can you walk me through how you went from you're sitting on your couch to now you're on the beach?
Yeah. So 2020, whenever
Great year.
whenever COVID
Wonder
hit,
what happened then.
Yeah, I just had nothing to do, and my fiance and I were girlfriend at the time, fiance,
Baby mama.
my lover, okay, the best woman in the entire world, most beautiful blue eyes ever, Courtney, I love you. Anyways, we were sitting on the couch, 2020, and I just binge watched Survivor. I had seen it, heard of it before, binge watched it, and I saw season 28, which was one of the best seasons. Tony Vlachos won that season. He was just fierce. He was a cop. He played fierce. And something in me was like, I need an adventure. No, seriously. I was like, I need an adventure. Because I was like, I don't know where my life is headed. I don't know how, like, after. It wasn't even due to COVID. It was just like, I don't know where I want to take the gym.
You're a mid-20-year-old.
Yeah, I was like, I just don't know what's happening. And so I was like, yeah, I'll make a 3-minute video. So you put a 3-minute video in and you're like, hey, I'm Sifu from blah, blah. I submitted the video.
You're taking it of yourself like you're living.
Yeah, you just set it up.
What is it? Why I should be on Survivor?
Reasons why you should be on Survivor.
48% Nigerian. I'll
And
zap you.
I'll zap you. And maybe a little connection on how you'd play the game and a little history of yourself.
Oh, okay,
you know what I
okay.
mean? I did that, send it in, and I get a call back about a month later, and they're like, we loved your submission video. And I thought it was a fake call because I checked the number and stuff. We love your submission video. We'd like to forward you to the next process. I'm like, there's no freaking way. There's thousands of these submissions. Little did
So
I...
you just like cold sent in a submission.
I cold sent in a submission.
You didn't have like a manager.
Nothing.
God bless.
Yeah. Pardon me. And I did put some pictures in there, some recall. Like if I talked about a moment, I would put a picture there or something just to make it look
Illustrate
nice.
what it is that you were talking
Right.
about.
So like whenever I proposed to my fiance, I had the picture in there in the video.
You
and
edited
stuff.
the 3-minute video.
Just
to
a little
elaborate
bit. Yeah. So they get a full picture. And so I think that looked right. Looked well. Called me. We loved you. We moved through the process. And man, let me tell you, it was a hard process because you have to meet with the producers. And these are people that are just asking you questions. How are you? You know, what do you do day to day? And what's your life like? And then you meet with Jeff Probst, which is the showrunner, the host. You talk with him for 10 minutes and you would think that he'd be grilling you on this or that, but he's actually just talking to you to see how you are, just what's going on. Like we talked about his dog. We talked about his son who's learning how to play guitar. Like his father that worked for Boeing. Like, it wasn't like anything game related. We just literally had a conversation. And for some
They're
reason,
probably trying to see if you're just like a normal person.
I think maybe that's it. Like, I wasn't like, hey, I am Sifu, and this is what, like, I'm not throwing it on thick for you. You know, he's like, I just want to see if I can have a beer with you. If you're someone I can sit down and
Well,
chill
dude,
with.
authenticity sells.
And that is
second
it.
only to sex.
That
Sex,
is
then authenticity.
I could agree. But that is it. The word you said is they were looking for authentic people. Little did I know, one submission, one take, one submission, one time, I'm on the show.
Okay,
I hadn't applied multiple times. It was one time.
But forgive me. So, like, you did the submission of the video. They
Yep.
tell you, hey, we like it. Did they fly you out? Are you doing
Yeah,
Zoom calls?
so let's go through that. Yeah,
This is what I mean by, like, I don't know how this works.
Oh, yeah, okay, at all. So, yeah, so we do Zoom calls for some of the producer meetings and with Jeff Probst. And then we do kind of a psychological test, a proctored test, where there's someone watching you and you're doing all the psychology. And then once you
What does that mean? What is, forgive me, they're watching you do.
Yeah, that way I'm not pulling up, like, the best way to answer this. Like a testing center.
Oh, like someone.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
forgive me.
What
yeah.
is that? What is that called? Like a PS? What is that called?
I don't know.
Do you know what that's called? A testing center?
You're right, Proctor.
A proctor? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
maybe that's it. Yeah. And so that way they just kind of monitor you. And then once you get past those things, you have to do medical. Make sure you're good. I had to do an echo.
Not pregnant.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not pregnant. I had to do an echocardiogram, checking my heart, a 3D echocardiogram. I didn't even know what that was. They paid for everything. The psychological, the medical, everything. And then they fly you out to California to meet with all the producers in person. And it's probably about a room this size with about 30 people. Jeff,
All the other people.
yes, like the no, sorry, not the cast, but the producer and videographers and all the people, the showrunners. And Jeff Probst is probably about from me to you, and then a few Matt Van Wagen and a few of the other people are.
And
sitting
they're all
there.
just like grilling you. They're not grilling. But
Well, it feels
they're
like
all there to see you.
right. It feels like that, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember walking into that room, and I'm like my mouth is so dry. I'm like, I'm Sifu. I'm here. I really love the show. You know what I mean? And then I started coming out. And I'm like, I'm actually really nervous. And when you call yourself out, then you start to become more comfortable.
Yeah.
So I started calling myself out. I'm really nervous. I'm not sure what to say, but we're gonna go. We're gonna dive in. And then
What do
I
do with my
literally
hands?
remember what's that?
What do I do with my
Yeah.
hands?
What do I do with my hands? Just say it. Say crepes. Talladega Nights, guys. But if you... And then I remember talking to one of the producers, and I was like, oh, yeah, I do martial arts and all this. Here, come over here. And I flip him on the ground in front of everybody, and everybody's laughing and smiling. I'm like, all right, I just threw a producer on the ground. I don't know if this is good or not. Because I said, oh, just grab me, and I just threw him over my shoulder. I made sure he landed nicely, whatever. And it just felt great. So then they fly you back. They ghost you for a while, which is something...
Oh, that's nerve-wracking.
It is, because then you're texting like a psycho ex. You're like, did I do anything? Are you okay? Where are you at? When I'm alone, 7 o'clock. You know what I mean? Like, you go crazy, and then they call you back if you make it and say, hey, you're on season 45 of Survivor. Now, there's some little things in between that go on, but that's mainly the process of getting on. When you're told you're on season 45 or whatever season, you have about a month out until you leave for the island. And I was on the islands of Fiji. So I had to figure out how my gym is going to run. My fiance had to run my gym, and the other personal trainers there had to really pick up the slack. And she had to pay all the bills and do all this,
Are you compensated at all for your time there?
Yes.
Okay. So there's,
Yeah.
They're
So-
at least supplementing some of the financial burden.
Right. So you are compensated each level that you get. So we'll get to that in a second, but you are compensated. Yeah.
I don't need to know the money. I just
Sure,
wanted-
yeah. And
I didn't know if
wouldn't
it was
tell-
like
I couldn't
you're
tell you
doing
the
this
money.
at-
I don't think I could say that.
I guess my thing is more like I didn't know if you were out there for like 3 weeks.
Sure,
right? I know that
sure.
there's like the grand prize winner, but like if you don't win that, are you just
Yeah,
you
so
go home
so
with nothing?
every single person on Survivor gets paid, whether
Yeah,
you're
gotcha.
first out or you win,
Gotcha.
or in between. And so I remember getting the call. I told my fiance, and I'm just screaming and just yelling, and I'm like, we got to figure out how we're going to take over the bills, gym, house, all that stuff. I fly out, and let me tell you, this is my first time out of the country.
No shit.
Yeah, dude. 7,000 miles away in a Fijian island. And it was my first time out of country. And I had to rush a passport. I had to do all this stuff. And I'm just sitting there like, wow, I am so blessed. I'm so grateful to get this moment. And to play a game, one of the greatest games alive on TV. I'm so thankful that this is how I'm leaving the country. And this is how I'm experiencing these cool experiences here.
Most people, when they leave the country, they'll go to like a 5-star resort. He goes and eats white rice for the next week and tries not to get bit by a poisonous snake.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Blessed. Blessed.
Well, and now let's retract some of the blessings. When we get there, you're in Ponderosa, which is, it sounds like a nice place, but it is a holding place, right? So, and I'm giving you the whole shebang on how this works.
Please.
So when you're first there, you're wearing masks because you don't want to be able to recognize the players or be able to like call them out or what's going on.
Wait, you guys are like wearing like...
So like just pretty much almost like a regular face mask, but just a little bit higher because I don't want to see any certain features of yours because other players are there.
Okay, so everyone sees the people that they're going to see now.
Right,
and it's
but
a competition, so you don't want people like Googling.
Or if I see you and I'm like this and then you give me the eyes, we might work together. You know, before the game even starts. So they make sure that...
So it's as clean a slate as possible.
As clean a slate as possible. So episode 1 is like the first time everybody's talking. Everybody's really seeing each other, right? So we get there. We get to Fiji. We're doing all the processing. We live in these tents for the first like 4 or 5 days, which was pretty fun and also rough at the same time. You could eat or you could choose to wean yourself off of food because you're about to be starving.
That's so savage.
It is.
Here's a meal if you want it.
If you want it, right? Yeah, if you want it.
Don't let me tell you not to eat it.
And we're doing pre-game interviews, which is cool. So we got to talk to Entertainment Weekly, Parade, a few of these bigger notifications. What is that called? Publications, not notifications. And we got to do all that and kind of get our story out there, talk a little bit, and then Jeff Probst flies in a helicopter on the last day before you start the game, and he just sets the tone. He's like, all right, the game's going to begin. We're going to get started. No food. We're going to be doing these hard challenges, XYZ. And then we get out. We get to the boats. They drive us around. They're flying drones everywhere. We pull up to this big ship, which was they called the barge. And I just remember climbing up it, and that's when it starts. Now, the thing about Survivor that I think sets it apart is it's like Mario Kart. You can't go back. They don't rewind, right? It's not like a TV show. It's like, oh, we didn't get a great shot.
No, it's one shot.
It's continuous. A reality forward, right? Yeah. And that's what I loved about it is it felt like I was living another reality. So we get on the barge. And that's my first time seeing Jeff Probst seeing the wall of cameras and then Jeff Probst in his gear and all my castmates, and I'm just like, we're beginning.
Yeah, can you talk to me about that? Because like I can only imagine. I know what I have for like a podcast, right?
Yeah,
and this is like for a still.
Right.
We're not moving, right? Like we're pretty chill, and I know how much goes into this. How much of you say that it's like one continuous shot and all that stuff. But I'm sure they have teams upon teams upon teams for like audio, video, all this other shit. So it's like, yes, but it's also,
right.
You got 6 cameras from like different angles, like everywhere. You can't even take a shit without being recorded. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's got to be a suspense of belief a little bit there as well.
Yeah, there is. They have walls of cameras whenever we do
they ever tell you like, oh no, do it from this angle? No? Do they ever give you any instruction?
No.
The team doesn't talk to you at all?
No. So the camera people that follow you cannot talk to you.
Gotcha. They're just there to observe.
They're not allowed to talk to you. The producers can talk to you. So like if they give me an interview or I do a confessional is what they call it, then they can say, well, how do you feel today? Or what happened today?
Gotcha.
Yeah, yada, yada.
But the day-to-day stuff, that's what you see is what you get.
What you see is what you get. We're really out there. We're starving in this new era. They do not give you food.
They don't have that initial care package at the beginning?
There's none of that anymore. Wow. So that's how it used to be. They used to have a care package.
Yeah, like the rice and the water.
You don't get that. So we literally, day one, we're looking around. I mean, worms are starting to look good. Crabs, we have to catch the crabs. We have to crack the coconuts. Luckily, my team won the first challenge, so I got a pot and machete.
Nice.
Pot, machete, and flint. That's what we got.
So fire, you're able to cook, and you can cut down
bamboo
or
or trees or catch something if we need to. So other tribes, Lulu and Bello, didn't get those, so they had to really struggle with that. So I do, and that's what this is. This is a Reba buff. So we really had the advantage there, but it's not much of an advantage. You had to go walk and get your own water to the well.
Says the guy who won those things. This machete, it doesn't help me that much. Man, making this fire with this flint is so much
easier rather than a piece of It
wasn't that much of an advantage.
It was a big advantage. I can't say it wasn't. But you know what it was great reality check. I don't have a phone. I don't have any outside source of connection. I don't have food. I mean, right now, if you and I are hungry, we could DoorDash some pizza. Right now, every luxury was taken away from me, and I think that was the biggest lesson that I learned. And from this, there's many more, but I think that it's like, man, now I have to coexist in this microcosm of a society with people I've just met and figure out what to do. How to survive, how to live through this, and how to be a part of this, and I think that was a really cool aspect of being on Survivor, but also the fact that, I mean, listen, dude, this show is not easy to get on. I applied once, got on once, and I'm so blessed and fortunate and grateful for that because it's changed my life.
I bet.
It has.
How many actual days were you on these islands? Do you know that?
Sure. So the pregame is probably about 4 or 5 days. With the pregame, you can't talk. There's zero talking.
Is that where you were in the tents?
Yeah, you're in the tent city, and you're kind of just doing medical checks and all this other stuff.
Getting acclimated to the weather.
Yeah.
Shit's about to suck real fast.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be great. And then you can be on the island up to 26 days now. That used to be 39 days. So I think after COVID, they cut things back, changed things up, and now the format's 26 days. And then there's you don't know much about Survivor, right?
I've watched a couple episodes.
Okay.
Sorry, I've watched a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you that I know all the nuances.
Okay.
I know things like how it is that you win, voting people off, the challenges, the survival aspect, the interpersonals.
Sure.
But I wouldn't necessarily how you say this season and that season.
Sure.
I wouldn't be able to go into that.
Yeah. So then, someone can be up there to 26 days and make it all the way to the merge and be voted out before, which is all called pre-jury. So you don't get to go on the jury. And then everything after that is jurors. So they're making the final decision on whether you win $1 million or not.
Can we take a step back though?
Of course.
The reason you asked me that was so that you understood what you could and what you didn't need to say and what you did need to say. But for the viewer who might not know what Survivor is, can you explain the overarching theme and goal of the game?
Yeah,
so when you say 26 days and there's the merge, what does that mean?
Yeah, of course. So Survivor is, it's a microcosm of people living together trying to survive and learn who and what is going on, doing challenges and whatnot. But it's 26 days, and each day presents its own challenge, whether you're just trying to build your own shelter or find food, and then you have to do challenges every couple of days. You do those challenges to either win a reward or to win immunity, so you don't have to get voted out. The reward typically is tarp, food, some sort of thing to help your camp life, or you win a reward to go get food or fishing
sort of
gear, things like that. But they get better as you go, the longer you go. And then, so once you're done with the challenges, if you lose a challenge, you go to tribal council, which is the main thing of Survivor. It's where you get voted out or you proceed forward. Tribal council, Jeff Probst is sitting right in front of you. It was very intimidating because now you just met these people and now you're drawing the line in the sand of whether.
Can we go into that? So when you say you're voting people out,
sure.
Can you go into the nuance of that? Because it's when you say we're voting people out, on what basis are you doing? Because
Yeah.
some people might not understand the interpersonal. Like, you could vote someone out because you don't like them. You could vote someone out because, man, this person doesn't offer any of us any value.
You could
to
vote
camp.
someone out because they snore.
Or you could vote someone out.
I'm
because,
serious.
Or you could vote someone out because that motherfucker is really strong. He's really fast.
100%.
And if I have to do a challenge match with him, he might beat my ass. I wanna get
100%.
him out now.
No, there's
So, like, there's this.
yeah, there's
a lot
different.
of
So
calculus.
the reasons to vote people out are always based on multiple things. One is physicality. Another is how hard are they playing the game? How much are you thinking about it? You know what I mean? And one of the newest
When
seasons.
you say that, you mean like how committed they are to it?
Yeah. So like if you and I are in an alliance and we've talked that we're gonna vote together and make our vote work towards something, and then you and I hear something from someone else and it's contradictory of what I've been telling you, then there's paranoia now.
Yeah.
And so now we're starting to think about, wait, is he telling the truth? Am I telling the truth? Are they telling the truth? So then you have this circulation of paranoia. So yeah, I think that
And you're all trying to survive together too, so you have to work together.
Right.
And you're like, just don't stab me in the back.
Yeah. So that's the one thing that if I could bring from the island to this podcast would be the realness of paranoia is crazy. No matter what you tell me, if I just see you walk off and go talk to Ted or Joe, I'm like, wait, we just solidified something, but you might just be saying, hey, I got a coconut back for the camp for everybody to go drink from. Or you might be like, hey, Sifu.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm thinking, but I also have to remain cool because if I don't remain cool, then you might turn around, man, you need to chill, bro.
Yeah.
We need to just get him out because he's not being cool. So, yeah.
Was it more demanding physically or psychologically?
Both. I think it was 50-50, man.
Yeah.
I think the physical part you're going to get used to. You get used to starving. It's easier to starve when there's not a fridge around.
Yeah.
Seriously. When you don't have access to food besides, like, the nature, it's easier to kind of live off of that, which I was the healthiest I'd ever been.
Yeah, you said you lost 30 pounds?
30 pounds.
In what, basically like less than a month?
Yeah.
God bless.
Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, so that's how the
Was it Tai Chi? Did he work out? No, body made by starvation.
Survivor body. Sifu, I got you. Tribal Council is intense. It's this big set that you walk into. They build it out there, so it looks real. Like it's not just like a movie set. They're built into the ground, and it looks like ancient ruins. You walk in, and this is where you start to figure out what is the actual plan. So when we go into this tribal council, you might be the vote out tonight because you talked a lot today. You snored and you lost a challenge, whatever, okay? And so now you make these 5 or 6 good points at tribal while we're all talking, and everybody's like, oh,
Damn, he's got a
Arion's
point.
got some point. He could vote with us. I think Sifu's actually a threat and a problem, and he's super strong. And then we start going my way. And now I'm got to fight for my life. You know what I mean? And so
You guys are actively talking about who to vote out. That shit's
actively
ruthless.
talking about it.
And then even if both, like, let's say I say vote Sifu out,
Yeah.
Sifu out, and you're like vote Arion out, and then let's say neither of us get voted out.
Right.
Now the next day we're like, oh shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I didn't mean everything.
There's
I
a
said.
coconut. Yeah. So
The game's got to be played, baby.
Yeah. And we're all out there to win $1 million. We're all out there playing for our family and other reasons.
It's a good chunk of change.
It is. No matter and everybody is paid, which is the beauty of that show. And I think they take a lot of time and effort and the care. So whenever I got out of this, so I got voted off, I had a psychologist on call for up to 6 to 7 months.
Yeah, because now that you say that, it makes
dude,
sense. Some people.
I wish I could explain, like, it's literally like extracting yourself from one actual reality that you're living. You just get pulled out immediately into another reality. That's what it felt like. Because I'm living this life of Tarzan, right? I'm starving. I'm in the woods. I'm in the jungles of Fiji. And then once you're cut from this, they don't want you to live that anymore. So you go back to normal life. You get to eat food. You get to get a drink. You know what I mean? But you just don't get your phone back till you get to the States.
I was going to say that. What's that process? Are you like in a hotel for a while?
You're in Ponderosa. So at first Ponderosa was tent city where they're checking you, medical checks and all that. And then when you come back to Ponderosa, it's like a resort.
Gotcha.
You could swim. You can get massages. You can get food 24 hours.
Hey, loser, have fun.
Yeah. No. So, I mean, Yeah, you don't want to lose the game,
It's
but
bittersweet.
you are comforted extremely. You can get massages. I think it was up to 3 or 2 times a day if you wanted to.
How long did you stay at this resort? Like, you get voted out.
Right.
How long are you in the resort?
If you're
resort before
voted
you
out
stay?
first, you're there for 2 weeks. So
in case someone like gets hurt, you have to bring
that
somebody back.
or there's a leakage. You know, like if I come back early, I could say, "Hey, man, I was voted out as survivor first." You know what I mean? So they keep everybody there longer
got you,
too.
got you.
There's multiple reasons. That's just one of them. There's multiple reasons.
That's
why
not
they
too
keep people.
bad. You go get voted out. Now you got a 2-week paid vacation.
Yeah, it is nice. I mean, it is nice. I'm sure they enjoyed their time there because you're on Fiji. You get a paid vacation.
But you did lose $1 million. That sucks too.
Yeah.
So how long were you in the resort?
So I was actually in the worst position possible.
Like near the end.
Well, yeah. So what I was is 7th, or I guess you could say 12th place, voted out right before the jury. So I didn't get on the jury. So that means I got sent to Ponderosa, exited and sent to Ponderosa, and then I got pizza and a shower and all this stuff, and then literally the next morning I'm flying out to the States.
That fucking sucks.
I know, man. I know. I'm like, everybody's on pool noodles, on the swimming and eating the food, getting massages and all this stuff, and I'm like, we fly out tomorrow. Okay. I still feel really weird because I just got ejected from this reality. Yeah. It was so strange, and I actually, for my castmates, the pre-jurors, so I had to apologize to them. Like, there's Sean, Zabaya, Hannah, Brandon, but I had to Brando. I had to apologize to them because I was not myself, and they had time to kind of acclimate a little bit, and I just felt so odd, like talking to people. But that's not normally me. We're sitting there having a full conversation. I'd do this with anybody, but I just felt so like warped, and I was like not myself. So many months after, it was hard for me to trust people. Literally.
Because that paranoia stuck with you.
100%. It did. And it's because you're living, I can't stress that enough. In Survivor, you're living the game. Like, it's not just like on and off cameras. It's 24/7 while you're sleeping. Wherever you go, they're following you. And then you're cut from the game and you're out, and then there's no cameras. It's just regular life. So then you have to like adjust your brain to think like, hey, Ariane's really just your friend, and he wants to go grab a pizza and beer right now. There's no ulterior motive right now that he has. There might be.
That's what I want you to say.
Yeah.
Go on. Yeah, please.
Right. But see, now look, he's messing with me. But no, seriously, that's what it would be in the beginning if I didn't get that help. It would be like, well, what? Why does he want to go out? Like, is there something you're trying to talk about? Is there something you're trying to? Where are we going with this? Are you actually my friend? Like, why is your handshake cooler with him than it is with me?
Jesus Christ.
Like, seriously.
You're looking at all the minutia of every interaction.
And it seems so like, oh my God, it's just a handshake or something like that. But it's like, it's interesting why you would do that with him than you would do with me. It makes you feel crazy, but you do get out of that. You do. Because you're like, all right, you're not in the game anymore. You're living your life. You're fine. And they do a great aftercare to take care of you for that.
So you said you had the psychologist on call for what, a month?
6 months.
Up to 6
months.
Damn. All right.
Yeah. Up to 6 months. Yeah, she was amazing, and she cared. She talked. She asked about my life, my family, and the game, and the processing out. But the coolest part of this whole experience of Survivor was coming back, no one knowing I was on it. Besides, like, people,
you can't talk about it, right?
Can't talk about it.
You sign NDAs.
Yeah, NDAs are crazy. Yeah, NDAs are crazy. So,
and also very easy to hold up in court.
right. And these are like 50, 60 page NDAs, and you're
damn.
Yeah, you're signing your life away.
Damn.
But coming back, I didn't realize 2 things. One, the effect of Survivor, being on a TV show. I was naive to that. Meaning the reach. Like that people...
how many people will see it?
Had no clue.
Millions
of people. I had no clue. So, and then 2, it was like I was a hometown celebrity or hero. Because I didn't realize that it was so concentrated that hundreds of millions of people would be watching CBS and Paramount Plus. And it just changed my life. Like, after it aired, I'm like, there's so many people that are supporting me in my community in the St. Louis area and even further than that. Like, it was so empowering. I will never forget the first episode came on and I was trending on Twitter. I was like, I never thought in my life I would be trending on Twitter. And it was for a funny reason. If you ever want to, I can send it to you. It's hilarious.
Please.
Because I was hiding behind a bush. So people were making
The
memes.
Homer Simpson.
Yeah. They were doing the Homer
Just
Simpson, the
escape into the
shack
bush.
behind the. Yeah. But it was so funny, and it was a celebration. No matter if you hated me or you loved me as a player, it was a celebration of Survivor and me and the players in general. And that's what I was like. Wow, I didn't realize that. And then another thing is the Survivor family is so tight, meaning alumni treat you well.
Oh, really?
So people that have played years ago,
Reaching
they'll
out to you?
embrace you. They'll reach out to you. They'll thank you. They'll give you advice. They'll say, hey, if you're ever in this city, come out to visit us. We'll take
That's so
care of
dope.
you. It's so sick. So anytime I go to Nashville, on my season, Mama J, I stay at her place. It's like her family is my family.
Wow.
Like we have all connected in a way that I think is empowering. And I didn't expect that aspect of Survivor. And maybe I was naive to that. But that's the cool aspect of playing and being a player and being an alumni is the connection.
Are you sure that takeaway is the same for everyone?
Oh, I'm sure it's not.
Okay. So perhaps it's that way.
I have a zest for life.
you,
I have a
yeah.
zest for life and positivity and an outlook for that. I think it's the opportunity is there
Yeah.
for most if they are open to it. But some leave it sour. Some leave Survivor very sour, very pissed
Well,
off.
that's what I was going to ask you, and not if you got sour, but like if someone told me that I had the opportunity to make $1 million in 26 days,
right.
I'm starting to think, especially if like, okay, day 1 I'm still there, day 2,
Yeah,
day 3.
you start getting
the closer
further
you
and
get to that,
further.
you're just like, okay, this far-fetched reality is starting to I'm starting to smell it, starting to taste it, starting to see it. You know what I mean? So like you start to feel like it's yours.
You do.
And then boom, gets ripped from you. So was there any part of you that was like, that I want to be careful how I ask this because I'm not trying to like bring up any feelings that you possibly could have had, but
Sure.
like, $1 million can change a life.
Yeah, man. It sucked. I don't know. Not winning $1 million was terrible.
I'm sorry.
Because you have a whole flash.
Yes, Ariane, not being a millionaire, not fun.
Yeah. You have that whole idea of your life changing, and it flashes in front of you like what $1 million does for you. I'm a business owner. What do you think? It's going to go into marketing. It's going to go reinvesting my business. It's going to go into just expanding everything I do. Like I have a program for autism athletes. I want to help out underprivileged children. Like it just keeps going. And so like the more funding and the more money I get, the more I'm going to give back and help others. So, and also just magnify what I'm already doing. So like, yeah, I was hurt too, not just because that psychologically I'm leaving an island and going, from one reality to the other. But yeah, there's a financial aspect that sucks, man. And it's, but it also doesn't because they do pay you.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They do pay you, but you just didn't get $1 million.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's a big difference, a
Yeah.
gap, right? Of $1 million work versus what you're
Whatever
paid.
it was that you got.
Yep. But
you
I
know-
think there's more to it. So another aspect I can bring up is the way you play too. You have a perception of what you think they're going to show and don't show. You have no control over your edit.
Yeah.
You have zero control over your edit, actually. Besides just like, even if you get to the end and win, you still don't know how they're going to edit you.
Yeah.
Like, I could look like the villain. I could look like the asshole. I could look like the savior. Now, I don't know. But the way I felt like I played, I was shocked. I was like, oh, man, I really wish they would have shown some of this and that.
Meaning what you saw, you thought certain things would have made the cut.
Sure, right. Because I'm like, well, we had some really powerful talks and moments, but I get it because it didn't flow with the initial storyline of how it goes. So that, I think if you're a player and you don't have a mindset like me, where you can kind of dissect it and look at it, I think that would hurt. I think you'd be like, oh, they didn't show me very much and they just kind of brushed me off. me, I'm like, well, I got to play a phenomenal show that most don't get to play, and I'm really excited about it.
When you watched it, what were your emotions like when you were watching yourself on
man.
TV and stuff?
Well, first off, when a player watches it, that's their first time seeing it.
Yeah.
With everybody else, my emotions were very. Man, it was. I felt it again.
The game.
I could smell. I could hear. I could feel. I was. So I guess I was emotionally invested in each scene, and I remembered the days. Right, so like if they show a scene, I'm like, oh well, that day we did this. We went on this adventure. We went there. I would say my emotions were up and down like a roller coaster. Right,
Between
I would go
positive
from
and negative.
Not even negative. I would go from happy to kind of like intense, and concerned, and then I would go all the way up to joy and glee, and then I would go down to kind of sad because I know where things are going. It was just a roller coaster.
What was it like watching the episode where, I mean, first of all, I want to be careful because I don't want you to give any information that you shouldn't be giving.
Sure.
Obviously you can't tell anybody whether or not you won or lost, right? So like you get home and everyone's like, how'd you do? And you're like, can't tell you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Nobody.
So when it's coming up to the episode where you lose, walk me through that.
Yeah,
are
sure.
You like, fuck? No.
So I didn't even tell my fiance. I didn't tell anybody. So I actually wanted to keep it a complete surprise because I'm like that guy at the movie. I don't want you to talk to the whole movie. I want you to enjoy the movie. Even if I seen it, I'll act like I didn't see it.
Yeah.
That's just how I am. So I didn't tell anybody. And I actually had a call with my psychologist from the show a week prior. And I said, hey, for some reason, I feel like it's an impending doom. Like I know it's coming. And it's next week. And for you as the viewer, you see it as, oh, he just got voted out. Okay, what's next? But for me, it's my experience. So I'm like recalling every feeling. Like we got sent to a beach that didn't have anything. So we finished the challenge. We were on the poles, and I couldn't complete it because I'm a big guy, and I just couldn't last. But then we get sent to a beach that was just desolate, and I was fighting for my life. I was trying to make fake idols. I was trying to talk to different people, and it was so funny because I was just like, every effort I give is futile. I know the initial vote, like we started to shift it to someone else, and then it was like, let's just vote Sifu. He's so out right now. And I just felt my impending doom. So watching it back was like,
Yeah, you lived it twice.
yeah. Stabbed in the heart. I lived it twice. And I lived it twice because I just could see it happening slow motion. And when you're voted out, it's like there's nothing. I mean, it's just the end of your saga there. So it was tough. It was tough. I want to say that I had a tear. I think I did cry a little bit.
Well, it's obviously holding a lot of sentimental value to you, and it's a part of your. I want to be careful how I say this. It's a part of your story,
Sure.
but also it's a part of how you market yourself now, right?
100%.
So it's like forever with you.
Yeah.
I mean, you brought the torch here today.
Yeah, this is
Which, by the way, at first I thought it was like, I was like, is he about to beat my head in with this?
I just walk in the building.
First guest to bring in a weapon.
Yeah, this is a survivor torch from they gave us our torches. They used to auction them off, but now they're sending them back to the contestants, which
when
is
you
nice.
look at it, what are your feelings?
Proud.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. There's only 750 people to have ever played Survivor. It could be around that number. It's around that number. Under 800 people to have ever played this game in the history of Survivor, and I'm one of them.
Yeah.
So I'm proud. I'm proud of that. Doesn't matter, the nuance. I'm proud that I got a chance to do it.
I think it's cool, man. I think it's a cool piece to like a physical representation for something that was overcome in life.
Yeah. Gracie?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a signed, Sid G gave that to me. Hoist Gracie signed a figurine and he gave it to me.
What?
Dude, the studio, it's changed over the course of time, and this is what I've wanted. So when we first started, I just bought like a bunch of shit that I was like, this is kind of cool, and this is kind of me, and there was a theme. And then over the course of time, and here's the thing, I made it a point to never turn down a gift.
Yes.
Even if I don't necessarily agree with the gift.
Right.
Like if someone's gonna give me a gift, I'm gonna put it up somewhere. So my high school wrestlers gave me like one of these annoying ass chickens. But it's a part of that. So taco vibes.
I love it.
Yeah, dude. I hope so. This will be episode 89 when it airs.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that like by episode 200, everything that I had
so
purchased
decked out.
is everything that I had purchased is gone.
Oh, good.
And this becomes a reflection of the guests.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hopefully, you know.
No, that's great.
But I also don't want people to feel like they have to bring
Yeah,
a gift.
yeah.
So it's like a fine line of
do you guys think he's subconsciously telling me to leave my torch here?
no, dude, are you kidding me?
It
I would
wouldn't. It
never.
wouldn't happen.
No, I wouldn't ask. I wouldn't
No,
ask.
I love that because I
Because
think it's a piece of your guests that will always live with you.
Yeah, and some of it is like businesses. So like Sweeps and Teeps with Lily and
Yep.
stand-up fight series with Chad, hand wraps, Lily Helton. Yeah.
Oh, dude,
She's a bad
Woo,
motherfucker.
let me tell you, Princess is phenomenal, man.
She's a cool chick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Also, dude, longest episode we had. We talked off the record and on the record for over 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then like 3 hours and 40 minutes was 3 hours and 40 minutes was the episode. And I remember when I first started doing the podcast, I told you and I'll say it. I was like, I at least want to go an hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Well, you drove out here. I
Right.
want to make it worth our time. And then there's no cap. Like if we go 3 hours and a half, I will say that there is always a correlation between the length of an episode and how much I'm enjoying it.
Sure, exactly.
That's for sure.
Well, I love it. I love it.
That being said, there have been some guests that were like, I got to go in 2 hours. So
Right.
like, I don't want to make it sound...
And that's circumstantial.
Yeah, if an episode goes like an hour, it doesn't always mean that the episode was bad. It also just means like, hey, I got shit.
I got stuff to
do.
go. Yeah, exactly.
And then here's another thing I do want to say. You're doing this of your own fruition. I have not paid a single guest to be here. So
I
you
love
made the
that.
drive here. You spent the time with me.
Yep.
So I always look at it as like an immense respect. You know what I mean? Like, thank you.
No, thank you. And I actually I found your channel just because I'm in that whole world of martial arts and stuff.
Especially in the area.
Yeah, and I was like, man, the way you carry yourself is great. The things you talk about are fun. It doesn't feel like you said, you're not holding a gun to anyone's head. You're just having a conversation. We're just having a conversation, and that's what I liked about it. It wasn't an interview style. Like
Some of them turn into that.
Oh, they can. And again, there's a lot of interesting people, and maybe you need to take it that route. But I love the format, so appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Dude, when we first formulated this, it was going to look completely different and be completely different.
Yep.
And I'm very happy that I actually took the approach that I did, because I thought to myself, when I was a fighter, I was very flamboyant, very aggressive.
Yeah.
And I was always the talk of the town.
I gotta watch some of your fights, man.
Dude, I talked a lot of shit. But this is, in a lot of ways, the podcast was also like a way for me to start a new chapter of my life.
Yeah, this is great.
I'm not the competitor. It's weird to say this because it says easy talk. Those are my initials, right?
Right.
But it's not about me. Every episode that I put on,
Yeah.
what is it? Easy talk, episode number, and then guest name.
Yeah.
It's not like any of this clickbait shit. Like, here it is.
Yeah.
This is the guest. Tune in. I
Let's
make
roll.
some clips and stuff like that.
I think that's good for marketing and getting yourself out.
I'll tell you why I do the clips. I do the clips because then it allows me two things. I'm gonna edit this video anyway.
Sure.
I do the long form edits.
Sure.
And I do that because I want to have some hand in the production aspect.
Yeah.
I don't do the clips. I outsource that portion, and that's why they're so much better editing. But it forces me to go through and actually see the product.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, I hate watching my own podcast.
Really?
I'm super.
That's good. I hear that.
Well, I'm very critical of myself.
Sure.
So like when I'm having this,
Sure.
this is how I would, if we turned off this and we went to a bar,
Right.
you'd feel no difference from me. Adrian, do you think I'm right or wrong on that one actually? Do you think I'm talking shit here?
100%.
So like I'm okay. What you
What you
get.
see is what you get.
And that's what I want it to be, so that if you
Right.
see me on the podcast and you listen to me, and then you see me at the fights and you say hi to
Right.
me, you're gonna get that
you
same
get the
vibe.
same. Yeah.
But when I'm watching it, all I can think to myself is like, I fucking sound like an idiot. I shouldn't have said that. I should have said this. And, oh my God, Ariane, why would
Yeah,
you
just
do-
hypercritical.
Yeah, you're just hypercritical. And there hasn't been a single episode that I've liked. Not because of the guests.
Yeah, it's because of you.
of me.
Yeah.
If you could cut me out of
You-
it and it's just the guest talking,
Man.
I'd love every episode.
That's what's gonna make your channel blow up.
We'll see. Man.
No, I'm serious. That sort of criticism, like that, is critical. That's critical thinking, I think, because you're just bettering the way you move and talk. Like the points that you're making, you're like, I should have never said that. I should probably just preface this, or we should not do that. Like I'm sure, and you could probably even just cut this out, maybe. But I'm sure there's episodes earlier where you didn't even have liability and like anyone signed stuff where you started.
No, we had
where
the
you first
waiver. We
started.
had the waiver forever, but even from the very first episode, there was only one guest in 89 guests. But
Right.
I've had to use the waiver.
That's what I'm saying.
And
It's like,
she was like, "Take the episode down, or I'm gonna sue you." And I was
Right.
like, "Bitch, here you go."
Right. So I guess what I'm saying is the growth is going to happen because you're hypercritical. It can also stunt you, but I feel
It
like
can
you're
also
not,
stunt you. Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like you're not going to let that happen.
I two things. When you first started martial arts, were you good?
Terrible.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I fucking dog shit. You know what I mean?
Terrible.
It took me years and years and years to get somewhat moderately competent.
I know.
Right? So that's the way I look at this now. I look at this as like I'm a white belt.
Yes.
When I look at episode 1, when I look at now, I'm much better at this.
Love
Am
it.
I the best I can be at this?
Right.
No, I still find myself like sometimes I interrupt my guests and I'm like, God damn it, Ariane, relax. You know what I mean? And there's sometimes where I'll rant about something I'm passionate about. And I have to remind myself that this is my show, but it's not my show. This is your
The guests
show.
are
Exactly.
Sure.
So sometimes I have to
I love that
Think about
because
that.
I have an entrepreneurial mindset myself, and I honestly I know we talked about Survivor. And I honestly think I wanted a big adventure, but I do think it was the entrepreneurial mindset of like I can't just do the same thing over and over. So I knew an adventure had to happen, whether it was Survivor or something else. Like the next chapter of my life was not going to be what it was.
Well, there's also
You
so
know.
much to gain from something like this, like win, lose, or draw.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, millions of people will watch this and it
Millions.
changed your life.
And when I would go to events, that's what I meant to say earlier is I was so naive to think that I didn't know that they had Survivor events where they would have watch parties. I know that sounds almost stupid.
no, it doesn't sound stupid.
But
at all.
like I came from a point of just watching the show because I enjoyed the show. I didn't know the lore of it, if that makes sense. Is lore the right like
allure.
allure of the show, the depths of it, right?
Well, everything's gonna have a cult following. Like every subset
And maybe that's
is gonna
it, yeah.
have.
And so when I got invited as a contestant, I'm like, oh my God, these fans are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like these fans want to meet you and hear stories and talk to you and take pictures with you and get signatures. And I was like, I feel connected. I feel loved. I feel it was a genuine, passionate moment that I was like, this is what makes me feel so good. Is the connection, the human connection with so many different people. We watch a common show. We watch a show together, whether we love the player or hate the player. We come together with this commonality of like, man, we love the story, that we want to talk to you about this. We want like, it's such a beautiful connectivity. And that's me. I like to dissect it. I know we kind of come back to that a lot, but I love the human condition. I love the mind of things. And so I think that's what leads me to love Survivors, because you have to adapt or die.
Well, you strike me as a very positive individual.
Yeah, I definitely try to.
All
be.
your content that I see on Instagram seems positive.
Yeah, we're fun.
The interactions that I've had with you. I've had some guests where I sense a little bullshit.
Yeah.
Like I can definitely tell that they're like trying to
play it up or
yeah. I want to be careful how I say this. I don't want to badmouth anybody. There have been some times where I've had guests where we introduce a certain topic and
Sure.
I see that shift.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hold up now.
That's
You were-
weird.
You were cool for the last hour and 15 minutes. Now you're putting on a mask. What is it about
Yeah,
this? You know what I mean?
where do we go there? Which chord
And I
did we
always tell
strike?
people, I'm like, listen, man, it's a conversation, not an interview. If I bring something up you don't want to talk about, we don't have to talk about it.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like they won't tell me, hey, I don't want to talk about that. They'll just lie. And I'm just like, okay, what are we doing here?
That's weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, you won't get that from me.
No, and that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily feeling that vibe.
Yeah.
Even the conversations that I thought would be kind of hard, like the adoption, dude.
Yeah.
I can't explain enough how the best part about this podcast, if no one watches,
Right.
I still had 89 really fun conversations.
Right, man.
Does that make
That's
sense?
That's it.
That sounds
You get
stupid.
to no,
but-
it's not stupid. You get the depths of another person that you may not have talked to if this platform wasn't here.
And you want to know what I've noticed with all the guests? We have so much in common.
Oh God, I know.
Man, woman, black, white,
Yep.
tall, short.
Doesn't matter.
Everything. The conversations that I have with everybody seem to always revolve around like some core tenets. And that's
Yeah.
like positivity, abundance mindset.
That's it.
How do I grow past myself and help the growth of others? It's like there seems to be this
Yeah.
common trend amongst people, and it actually has kind of strengthened my belief in humanity
Oh man,
and society as a
I'm so
large.
glad you said that. And so let's get a little bit real for a second. Not that we haven't been real, but what's funny about my positivity is it comes from darkness.
Of course.
And I think that my life is shaped the way it is because of the darkness. And it's the reason why I alluded to saying I was like, I had to get, it was Survivor, it was something. There had to be a point. There had to be a point I need to get to. And it was because I needed an adventure at that point. There was something that had to happen. So in my life, I had two best friends, and they both died. Like left and right hip. I mean, I'm telling you, they were my left and right hip is what I'm saying. They were my brothers. And one of them was killed by a drunk driver, and the other one lost the battle to fentanyl, and then actually, unfortunately, when he was driving home, kind of just nodded off and was killed. And they were the only people in my life that I saw the future kind of like, we're going to go do cool adventures. We're going to get the coolest chicks, and we're going to do, like we were kids. We grew up
Full of life
and zest. And we were like, we're going to go on these big adventures. We're going to do this. We're going to be that. Boom, 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 boom. And we played music together. We were a band. So Dustin Graves was my guitarist, and then Doug Landers was my drummer. Doug Landers was, he was the first friend that I lost to the drunk driver.
How old were you? How old was he?
So Doug was 9 years ago. So
23.
23. Yeah, you're better at math than I am.
Yeah.
So 23.
I know something about something.
Yeah. 23. And the best part of that was I got a phone call, and it was on April 1st.
No.
Yeah.
Did you think it was a joke?
I did.
Oh no.
I did. So I answered the call and said, "Hey, dude, Doug, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Oh." I look at the time. Dude, don't. I just hang up. I'm like, whatever. And I'm laughing. I was like, that's a far joke. And I looked down at my phone. And I'm like, they're calling and calling and calling. And I answer, and I just knew. And then something weird happened. It's funny. You see it in movies, like literally time slowed down. It wasn't like legitimately like, "Grr," but it was like, Doug was killed by a drunk driver, and then I just look up, and just everything's like going slower, and I just was like, "There's no way." April 1st, this is not a joke. I get to the scene. I literally get to the scene, and I see him laying there, which is horrible. The cops are there. His parents aren't there just yet, and it was horrible. I went to the hospital. I got to hold his hand. He was gone. He was hit dead on right there, and I think that's what really took. Because before that, I was. People used to tell me that, like my sister would say, you were more mean, you were more agitated. Even when I was doing Tai Chi, and I still just had more of an edge. But after losing both of my best friends, my life. I use their losses as more fuel to live my life with zest and positivity. There's not time where I need to spend being negative. It's not that serious. Like it's not. When people are so caught up on, it's not that serious. Your life is fucking short. You don't get so caught up on all these little things. You can move forward. These people that I lost in my life, I thought were going to be there forever, and they were brothers. And I think that's what circulates this positivity. Why I always come back to a smile. Why when you talk to Sifu, I am always going to be this guy, but it's because of the pain. So I lost him from that. And then years later, sorry. Yeah, no problem. Years later, I'm facing my friend that's losing the battle to fentanyl. And this one, I'm going to try to keep the tears back. Because this one hurt really bad. Dustin Graves, his son is my godson. That's how close we were. And Man, this is tough. He was he's the reason I can play guitar. He's the reason where I kind of had my cool swag when I was younger and could get the girls, and had the cool talk. He was the reason that I had the adventurous mindset. We would just go out and travel and want to go do fun stuff and party and stuff. And again, I get a phone call. It wasn't April 1st, thank God. But I just get a phone call. Hey, Dustin was in a really horrible wreck. And this was 2020. So it's not long ago. He was in a really horrible wreck. And I don't think he made it. And again, I go to the crash site. And this is his mom and his Taylor, so his baby mom.
His lady.
Yeah, his lady. Called me. And I show up. And I'm telling you what, everything just, I couldn't even move. I was just like, I looked up and I said, what are you doing? Like, what are you taking these people that are my integrity? Like, these are the people that I talk to daily. I spent summers with. I didn't know anything else. Like, I was just these people. We were going to do fun stuff. We were going to play music. We were going to live life together, have families together, have barbecues, and and we planned all this. This was our life. And then, boom, taken. Boom, taken. I'm alone in this world. That's what it felt like. You know what I mean? And so I was like, God, this is the roughest thing. But I went through a deep, dark depression, gained 70 pounds. I have pictures I could send to you. You'd be like, damn, you're a big bag. And it was funny because I didn't think I was at the time, but I allowed myself to get there because of the depression, because of the darkness. And then I just woke up, and I know this is going to sound so almost cliche, but I woke up one day and I was like, I put this podcast on, and it's the funniest thing because he's a hilarious but super serious, just a testable man. And I say testable meaning everything he does is real. And David Goggins comes on the podcast, and he starts talking. And for some reason, when David Goggins started talking, I just started listening. I just literally started listening to every single thing, and I went deep dived into his podcast and his talks and his story and all this stuff. And that wasn't like the defining moment where I changed everything, but it was a moment where I started to get off my ass and stop feeling sorry for myself and stop getting I was so big, my stomach was big, I was just disgusting, and I stopped feeling bad for myself, and I started walking. I started pushing myself. I started getting back to my martial arts again because I took a break from it because I'd lost my friends. I was like hopeless. I feel hopeless. And David Goggins, just when he comes on there, it kind of made me laugh. Stop being and start running and do. It just was so funny, but it was also so serious because his history. He just is a badass man. Like, he just is undeniably him, and that's it. And I just kept listening to it, and I was like, okay, my take from this is, yes, I can be untapped, and I can take my mind as far as possible. I can go to the end of earth, and I have to push myself. But the lesson I took was, stop feeling all the pain from the two best friends that you lost, that you believed you were going to live the rest of your life with, and start living the life that you guys wanted to live for them. Go on this Survivor adventure. Go do some fun adventures here. Have a family, have a kid. Go hiking. Go travel, as far as you can and vacations and do fun stuff. Make music. Like, stop living in the woe is me victims mentality and start celebrating their lives. And so ever since I started switching the celebration, now my life I am choosing to always be more positive than negative. So that's where the negativity was diminished, and the positivity always will reign higher. Is because I lost two brothers. Before that, I lost my sister. I know, it's like, wow, it was just so many things that kept me pushing and fighting. And I think I decided, I'm like, I just can't live in negativity because life is too short for that. I need to live with the positivity and infect as many people as I can while I'm on this earth with a message, with a moment, with a memory, whether it was a fun memory where I did some stupid dance and you laughed at me, or whether it was we had a good conversation and you're like, man, I remember the one thing you said that really stuck with me. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, whatever, cool. That's my mark, and that's where I want to leave. That's where I want to leave this earth is like I gave something back to it. My friends didn't have that opportunity to give back like they wanted to. They gave to me and their families when they were here. But now it's my turn to really put that positive energy back into this world and the earth. So sorry to take it so down.
No.
But there's a little history on why Sifu has a zest for life, and it comes from a lot of loss and pain.
I think trauma, just like anything else in life, we were talking about the friction for our kids to kind of create some friction in their lives so that they can still have some sort of
struggle in
life, just not the same struggle we had, but still learn from that struggle the way we did. I think trauma is the ultimate resolute.
Oh man,
it can either cripple you, diminish you, break you, and ultimately take you.
Right.
Or you can use this as fuel.
100%.
I think for most people, you cannot look at someone who is walking a path of either stoicism or positivity or abundance or growth or what have you, and think to yourself like there's, they've only ever had good happen to them.
Right.
So then it puts that into perspective like, okay, this individual is living a lifestyle full of the valleys, yet still seems like they're always at a peak. How is that?
Right.
Cognizant. They're choosing to do this. And the beauty in that, and what I'm trying to get to is choosing something is universal.
Yeah.
It's not tied to the physical. It's not tied to the mental. It's not tied to anything.
Right.
I can be a paraplegic and still be positive.
Right.
I can be, I could be a millionaire and still be sad.
Right.
Like I chose that life, right? When the limiting factor or whether the variable for a more successful life is mindset, it's the easiest thing to choose.
Yeah.
Choose your mindset. That being said, I think it's easy to say, and I think everyone will believe that for the most part, but it's so difficult to do.
Yes.
So it's like theory
it's the
versus
difference
application.
of being a walking testament to your principles or not. And my principles are positivity, and I will lay down in that, swim all over it, because there's so much. I mean, there's already so much negativity out there. Why do I need to add to it?
That's fair. I don't know if it's negativity. I think it's just chronically hungry people for love.
Man, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does.
Because I don't know a single person who's like negative, who like comes from like a loving household, who has a home with like a child and a wife who love them, and like they're surrounded by love. So like, and then they just choose to shit on other people. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Usually there's a correlation to negativity in their interpersonal lives and a scarcity of affection.
Right.
Whether that affection comes from a dog, a human,
some
whatever that love takes the form of.
Right.
Could be a child, could be your spouse, could be family members, friends, whatever, your car, fuck it, I don't know. So I just think you're not wrong in that sense, but I also think that it's not like people are choosing to be negative. I think they're doing it don't get me wrong, there's always going to be shitheads and stuff like that. Right. But like, the occasional racist meme or the occasional funny video on Instagram, that's not a reflection of you as a person, right?
Right.
It's the 90%, not the 10%. And I think the 90%, the people that choose to be mostly negative, give them a few reasons to be positive and watch them change.
Yeah.
Because
I do believe people can change like that. I do believe
both ways.
Both ways, yeah.
Someone can be a loving, caring person.
Oh, 100%.
You give them a little bit of loss.
I've seen that happen.
I've seen guys go from 10s to 2s because some girl broke their heart or whatever.
I should have been down that path, but I decided against it. I fought deeply on it. When I was 16, my sister passed away, and I think that was, and I was partying. I was really an idiot. I had a big ego to myself, and I was just like I was mean. I was not fun. But she passed away, and she lived in the room right next to me. My mom took her in, and I was giving her CPR, and she was already gone. And my mom runs in, she screams. My brother runs in. He tells me to stop. There's nothing to do. The ambulance gets there. Hey, she's passed away. You're good. You don't need to do that. And it's so interesting because I'm like, man, I've got all this trauma and all these things built up. I should have, and I was headed down that addictive party, drug, and all this stuff path. But for some reason, when I go back to those moments of my sister passing away, my two best friends, and some of the other losses that I've had, I tend to turn it into passion and power over time. After a little bit of self-destruction, the self-destruction doesn't last. I make sure
it's grief.
That's what it is. But
no one's gonna hold that against you.
Yeah. I just, man, let me tell you that was probably the first most hard thing, having to do that. And my sister suffered. First she moved in because she was having problems seeing. She was diabetic, but she was pretty skinny, small. Liver failed, and then we just kept her there, and then at the house and cared for her. And then she went to a doctor's appointment, and they neglected her, and she passed away on the table, and they just forgot about her. And then they had to resuscitate her, and she lost a lot of brain capacity, so she wasn't as sharp and wasn't all there. And
from what, lack of oxygen?
Yeah, lack of oxygen and things like that. So we had some issues there, and it was just so painful. I mean, as a 16-year-old, I also didn't even know how to process it. I was sitting there like, how do I go through this? Like, what? My sister just died. Okay, so I got to go to school tomorrow. Or I got this to do. Like, I didn't have a chance to mourn a lot of the losses that I had. Which is the actual good thing about the fiance, my Courtney. She is the reason probably that I've healed so much is because she's given me so much grace, not all that pressure, and understands me and allows me to be me and to fully fruition. I know a lot of people, but I don't have many close friends, right? I really don't. And
wise man.
Yeah, exactly. It's just how it is. My piece.
Well, if you told me that you had a lot of close friends, I'd tell you, you don't. You think you do, but
yeah,
no, you don't.
I don't. I know that's a fact. That is a proven fact. Actually, the first 4 years of her and I dating, she actually questioned if I had friends at all. She's like, you don't ever go out. She's like, you just kind of go train or martial arts and do this. I'm like, there's a reason for that. Self-discipline and honor to myself and my integrity. That's why. But it's also because I've lost my two best friends, and it was just very difficult to reconnect too. I mean, it was really difficult to even have a conversation with someone and you ever say something, you ever talk to someone and it's like, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? I'm fine. Yeah. Are you good? I'm fine.
Oh, small talk? I don't do that.
And that's the end of the conversation. And for some reason, I was like, I can't live in that. Like, I have to have some depth and some sincerity in the conversation.
Actual connection.
Right, an actual connection. And so it was difficult for many years to find that after all the loss. And so what I did was just invest in myself. And I think that's what tripled that positivity and that love and that outlook for people. But I also invested in myself so that I could give back to others. Like, there's a kid in my class right now who is adopted himself and doesn't know he does know his biological parents, and they're just not great people. Right, we're working through that. There's a young kid in my class that's going through relationship issues, and we're working through that. There's a girl that's just went through this horrible breakup, and I've poured. We started off doing jiu-jitsu. I was teaching her self-defense, and we're doing learning all this stuff, and I could just tell something was off. And then we started talking, and that's where I get into my life coaching and my giving back because of all my loss. I feel like it's my time to invest and pour into this person or these people. And so that's where I'm at now is, so we can get into this young lady. So her and her relationship didn't work out. The person wasn't pouring into her, and, you know, she was muted for many years and wasn't loved or cherished and stuff like that. And whenever she started doing jujitsu and realized that she could choke someone out and take her power back and kind of feel more like invigorated, she was like, I want to do a jujitsu competition. I want to learn how to box. I want to do this. She felt refueled, you know what I mean? And inspired. And then we started talking a little bit more, and I just poured into her as a flower needs a little bit of water, right? And she's leaned more into her faith. She wasn't going to her, and this is not me directing anyone to go to do anything, but she's a Christian, and she started going to church more and doing her thing there. And I said, get closer to whatever faith it is that you believe in, but lean into it, especially since you're alone right now. Try to find that. Try to find an activity. Try to find this, because you being alone is killing yourself inside right now. Like, you need to sit in that a little bit, trust me, and those pain and that agony, but you also need community because you haven't had that support. And me giving back to these people is because I've lost so much. So the life coaching I'm doing and the training I'm doing is all a direct reflection of the loss. And I think that circulation comes full circle. Like, it just keeps doing this like a wave.
You're using a lot of words to describe mentorship.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Mentorship.
Life coaching. You're just being a mentor for
Yeah,
people.
there you go.
Whether it's for a woman who's regaining her confidence.
Yeah.
Whether it's a young boy who's
struggling in the world.
Living a life with a lot of variables that you can resonate with. I think that's what... you said something earlier, and it kind of piqued my interest. And
sure.
I'm curious what you think of this. Do you think that humanity, when you break it down, is its best when it believes in something higher than itself? Earlier in this conversation, we talked about how fatherhood changed us because it gave us something more than ourselves to take responsibility for that will outlive us. So it's a humbling thing. I used to be the arbiter of my own world. Now I'm a facilitator of hers.
Right.
And how she's going to inherit this earth, right? It's the same thing with religion. This lady starts to find her faith again. Once again, something above her, outside of her, giving her more meaning.
Right.
I think that we as human beings...
we seek something, yeah.
Well, we live in reality where we have basic needs, right? Food, water, shelter, social.
Sure.
And we believe that in an abundance, if these things make us feel good, then more of these things will make us feel more good.
Right.
I think that's true to a certain point. And then I believe that once these needs are met, the threshold for what will amplify you as an individual is no longer these things. And it's more about giving to something above you, more than you.
Right.
I think that's the beauty of mortality.
Yes.
If we lived forever, then there was never more than us that we ever should think about. But because we are finite.
Exactly.
Because we are temporary.
Yeah, I think because we're so fragile, right.
It's like I can pour into something that will be stronger than just my individual self.
100%.
And then we become, I believe this in myself. Like when I think to me, like, who is Arion? Is Arion the guy that was born in 1992, December 7th? Like, no, like I am a culmination of nature, nurture, my mentors, the people around me, everyone in some way, shape, or form has poured into me. The person you see before you today is a reflection of thousands, if not tens of thousands of people who have interacted with me throughout my 32 years of life. Right. Now, if you double that to 64 years before I die, imagine then how many more people have poured into me.
100%.
I think humanity is its best when we're pouring into one another and not necessarily worried about the individual. Now, I think that it takes a certain sense of greed. You have to make sure that the individual is taken care of before you pour into someone else, because you don't want to be giving somebody the shirt off your back. You want to make sure that your own bed is in order before you start to make somebody else's bed, right?
I agree. I think that humanity would be better if we poured into one another more often.
I think we do it. You're a testament to it. I know I am.
Thank you.
I coach. I'm doing the same thing. It's gratitude personified because
Right.
what you are is you're grateful for those that poured into you, and now you feel a duty, a responsibility to do it to others.
100%. And that's it. That's what makes me, you know what? What made me feel like be able to smile every morning is someone asked me when I was younger, this guy named Sonny, he used to paint in the park. This sounds like a movie I'm painting. But he's the old guy who used to paint in the park.
And he used to get sunburns.
Yeah, yeah.
And you were like,
he could probably get sunburned, probably. But he used to ask me, he's like, man, when you figure out how to answer who you are, life is going to be a little easier. And I had no clue what he was talking about. I was a young kid. I was like, okay. And he's just painting, he's just like a Bob Ross, right?
making happy accidents.
And when I got older, I was like, oh, I know who I am. I know what I want to do. And it's what you said. It's really what you said, mentorship. That's what it outlines, and that's what it all boils down to. I want to give back as long as my well is filled and filling. I want to give from my well, and I want to have others receive as much as I can give, comfortably without depleting mine, right? Because
you have a responsibility to your fiance and your
my
your son.
That's what's most important, right? But that is who I am, right? I am the cycle of water to others in my world, and I think that's the importance of what I do is we replenish that, and then that person that I helped, they go off to help another person. But I don't need to oversee that. I just hope that that's the mission. You know what I mean? I hope that this continuation spreads throughout the wrinkle of time through one word or multiple words or actions of mine. And that's what my purpose is. So I've found that, and now I can live in that, and I'm happy with it.
I tell everybody that I'm the most selfish guy I know because I only do things that I want to do and that I like to do. It just so happens, fortuitous for me, I like to do things that help other people.
And selfish usually has a negative connotation with most people, but it shouldn't be.
I do exclusively only the things I want to do.
Yeah, I love that.
So.
I think more people should in a respectful way, meaning not selfish like I'm taking this is mine and you could never have it. That's what people would relate selfish to more. But selfish is like, man, I'm gonna drink water with alkaline in it, or I'm gonna go on a hike, or I'm gonna just do these things because I enjoy them for myself and it makes me feel good, and it's going to help me eventually probably be a better person. Like that's selfish to me. You know what I mean? I'm gonna eat clean, or I'm gonna I want to have the burger, so I'll have it Friday, and then I'll do like those are selfish things. I think can be celebrated. But
I agree. I just never want anyone to think like I'm, or that you are like
more. You said more than you are. Is that what you said?
No. I just don't want
it.
people to like ever mistake me as like this like altruistic like, oh, Arian's like he's a really good guy. No, I'm a cunt.
Is that true?
I'm a selfish guy.
Is that true?
No.
Hey, I'm asking. What's your name? Producer. What is this true? Is he? He can be.
No, yes, he can be. But no, Arion pours into other people. Otherwise, you wouldn't be a coach for high school wrestling.
Yeah, but I do that because I want to. That's what I'm saying.
You want to, but yeah, I mean, there's.
And because
poured into me.
Right.
Maybe you're an ass about it, but.
But okay, so give me
the reason I say that is because sometimes I feel like people do things for the attaboy, for the pat on the back.
Ah, there it is.
And this is my way of being like, don't give me that shit.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because I want to do it.
Yeah.
And if I don't, by the way, the day I don't want to do it, the day I don't want to coach anymore, there's not gonna be a force that's gonna like stop me from quitting.
You from quitting.
Yeah. Okay, I'm done, boys. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is that I'm doing.
Sure.
I'm doing them because I like to do them.
Okay.
Why I like to do them, I don't know, but I like to do it.
Interesting.
So I will continue to do it until I no longer like it. I will say this: the more that I do it, the more that I like it. So I like that trend. You know what I mean?
Right.
I like
it kind of
the
follows suit, yeah.
Wrestling poured into me. Without wrestling, without that program, I wouldn't be the guy I am today.
Yeah.
So I like giving back to the program that gave to me. I have that gratitude.
But is there a special student or cluster of students that you really see potential in?
For sure. But then I always think to myself, I was never anything special. ever.
Okay.
Even now.
But did someone see you as something special?
I don't
like a coach or a...
I don't care. The truth of the matter is
Right.
I wasn't. I am not.
Right.
And I was still able to do great things.
Yeah. I love that.
That's the whole point.
I love that.
It's like I have the perceptions and biases just
Sure.
as much as the next man.
Sure.
But I also have to remind myself that like if Devon Ford, my freshman year of high school, would have looked at me and been like, this little skinny white boy with like no real athletic acumen, he's not going to be shit, then I wouldn't have never been shit. But he didn't think that. He
Right.
gave
He poured
me just
into it, yeah.
he gave me just as much time as he gave everybody else. The guys that were stronger than me, faster than me, and all these other things. And that hit me, and I was just like, okay, you know what I mean? And then those guys got the same amount of time that I did, and then they did less,
Interesting.
or greater, or what have you. I guess what I'm trying to say is, do I have my favorites or my favored? Yeah, you're going to resonate with personalities and things like that. But do I treat every child how I would have wanted to be treated when I was in high school?
Right.
Absolutely. I give them exactly what I signed up for.
Wow.
So, but only because I want to do it.
So much, if you go outside of this conversation, so much in the world is sparked from someone believing or someone disbelieving in someone, and that sparked one of the biggest changes ever.
Yeah. Either I'm going to show you wrong or I'm going to prove you right.
Right, exactly. That's literally a wow, that's a massive lesson that you could dive deep into, but it's like what does that come from? Where proving someone right or proving someone wrong, where does that really come from?
Ego.
Yeah.
Just as much as the next thing.
Which is one of the things that I've always worked on killing as much as possible.
Why?
Oh man, that's
It's your greatest attribute.
I can disagree with that.
Really?
100%.
What if I told you that everything you're doing right now is egotistical?
It is 100%,
Including the positive.
Yeah, but
Ego can be good or bad. I'm not saying.
It
you know
is.
what I mean?
So I kill the ego enough to where it's not overtaking me like it used to.
Yeah, don't be a cunt.
Right. So let me tell you a story. I had an ego so big that this is obscure. Tai Chi push hands, not many people know what it is. And earlier I called myself an undefeated push hands champion. No one on your channel is going to understand what the
I'm going
hell
to Google
that is.
push hands after
Yeah,
this.
they just aren't. But that was an
Here's
egotistical...
me hoping I can fap to it.
This guy is so funny. But no one's going to understand it. But it was an ego of mine at the time to go around America and destroy all the people that were claiming that they were doing good push hands or good Tai Chi. I was calling up schools and say, that's why I know Adam, like I was calling up Adam Meisner and saying, hey, can I come to your seminar?
Zap
yeah,
boy.
Zap guy. And say, can I come to your seminar? And he was like, no, you don't need, because they knew that I was on an ego trip. I was going to come there to destroy people and say your Tai Chi's whack and pointless. Like, that's where my ego was. And so, like, I was like, whoa. I need to pull back and destroy some of this ego because it's a warpath of destruction. Where else is this at? That's okay if it's in Tai Chi. That's just like combative martial arting, kind of whatever. Like, it's still kind of dickish, but where else is it? Was the problem. I said, well, if I'm thinking like that in this regard, am I like that to people? You know what I mean? Like when people come talk to Sifu, like, are they like, he's high and mighty on himself.
But
he's very, you know.
Can't you compartmentalize though? Because I can make the argument that if you did go to Zap Boy's gym and you did push his hands super hard, now he's not fucking making YouTube videos talking about bullshito.
Yeah.
And you're doing society a favor, including Tai Chi.
I would have decimated him, and it would have changed the course of history for him if he would have filmed it.
Maybe humbled him.
Here's
a positive outcome from your ego.
For sure. But
I guess what I'm trying to say is,
I will always
anything can be good and bad.
I will kill my ego enough to where it doesn't overtake me. Tame it, maybe, would be a better word. Taming my ego.
And
maybe we agree to disagree on this.
No.
Because
I agree. I guess I agree in theory. Perhaps our application is different because I am the most confident guy I know. I am very cocky.
Right.
And then the way I kill my own ego
sure.
is I tell myself, You're just some broke kid from South County.
Right.
Shut the fuck up, dude.
Okay, I see what
Does
you're
that
saying.
make sense?
That does
I'm
make
like
sense.
my own worst critic.
It's like
right when I start getting high and mighty, shut up, Ariane.
Right.
You don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I guess it's my Tai Chi because the methodology of the mindset is I am somebody but nobody.
I resonate with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I'm the shit and a shit simultaneously.
Right.
Simultaneously. I'm Schrödinger's shit.
And so, that's the way I want to live my life, and that's the way I try to be. So, like, yes, I guess the ego is important. I do tell that to young men.
I was about to say the exact same thing for boys.
Yes,
and
I
young
do
men,
tell that to young
have
men.
that confidence because the world is gonna beat your ass.
I do tell that I do reinforce that because there is a point to where if you don't have that at a younger age, you'll get destroyed by it and you'll get kind of swept under the water by it.
I was having a conversation with a woman who's kind of climbing the corporate ladder right now, and she asked me, she was like, Ariane, why is it that I feel like whenever I'm hitting this new stride, like the men around me are very supportive and appreciative and all that, yet the women tend to be like very catty and like all this other stuff. I said, well, one, they probably want to have sex with you. One.
The women?
Two,
or
no,
men?
the men.
Okay.
Two, I said, men from an early age have only known how to like overcome adversities and get beaten down by life because we don't have the inherent value that women have.
Right.
Let's call a spade a spade. So we've had to kind of claw our way out from the mud so that when another man sees another man in a position where they have clawed themselves out of that, there's this reverence and respect because he was also in that position.
Right.
He knows how difficult it is. That's why I think
I like
that's why
that.
I think men resonate with mentorship so much because I benefit from mentors much older, much wiser than I am, much more
100%.
successful. And yet they take me under their wing as if I'm their own son.
Right.
Where does that come from? Because they see in me a
You
lot
do
of
see
themselves.
that far less in women.
You do.
Yeah.
Why?
Even in my personal experience.
Because women are much more internally competitive with other women because they did have that inherent value at birth.
Yeah.
Not saying that women can't uplift
Of
other
course
women.
not.
But what I am saying is there's a term called women upliftment or whatever.
Right,
Like there's a whole subsect of it where men just like nod at one another and like.
Do you believe that there's a level of like, what's that called? Not even like. You have what I want
Within men?
within women. Like it for this person that you're talking to specifically.
I think this person is immensely attractive, very confident,
So it's intimidating.
and intelligent, and I think what it is more than anything is intimidating because men have always had to compete with other men for sexual partners, right? And women were always the ones that were what's the word I'm looking for here? Sought after.
Yeah,
They basically stayed there and had value.
Right.
Where men had to, when you talked about like you had a moment in your life where you just focused on yourself and worked out more, lost the weight, made some moves.
Right.
You invested in yourself. Men have to do that because we have to get to a certain level to then approach that woman. Where the woman, for the most part, is kind of like a static value where she's kind of waiting for that man. And this is kind of like, I'm going to take it away from dating here because you can extrapolate this because it's the subconscious. If you take a man who in the sexual marketplace has to constantly like fend for himself and uplift himself and grow so that he can acquire the woman that he wants, the most attractive, the most beautiful, yada, yada, he's got to be the best version of himself. So he knows only how to uplift himself. Where if the woman is the main attribute that men seek after is a depreciating asset, they're going to start to get very sour to time. So when another woman comes across who has maybe some tendencies that men have, instead of looking at that as like, I can do that too, I can also work out, I can also do this, I can also do that. Because women don't necessarily have that same like subconscious feeling from birth that men do from this dog eat dog world where we have to compete. Think about it. Every man that you've ever met is also a physical combatant that could take you, right? Like, so you're having these interactions with men.
I have looked at it like that.
That
before.
could possibly get physical, right? So you're like, okay, this guy's a little bigger than me. If I had to do this, okay. And then,
Where we
and then
going?
whenever you have like a cordial conversation, you're like, whew,
Yep.
cool. We didn't have to fight to the death.
Right.
Women don't have that. They compete with
you
one
see
another.
those funny videos where the guy's walking into the airport and he's like, threat to the left, got an exit to the right, you know? And then, right.
Women do the exact same thing, but in a
Right.
different way.
Sure.
They compete like gossip, talk, social competition from the back end. I think it. I want to be careful how I say this because it's making me sound like I'm saying that women are like, you know.
No, I think if you look at the extraction of what you're saying, it makes like it's good information. So it's not, you're not generalizing the woman.
There's always outliers. Like there's gonna be jealous
always
men
outliers
that want to, instead of uplift or mentor someone,
100%.
we'll cut them at the knees, right?
100%.
I
think that's clear. I think what you're saying is clear. You're not.
And this is anecdotal, so like don't at me at this. But anecdotally, what I've noticed in my 32 years of life is I've seen a lot more men willing to uphold or uplift and mentor young men than I've seen older women try to uplift and mentor younger women. Okay. I don't know a single older woman that's a mentor to a younger woman. Not one.
Wow.
Now that I'm saying that out loud.
Interesting.
Yet I know 10 mentors in like older men.
You make a great point. There was one time.
Not saying they don't exist.
No, you make a great point.
Anecdotally, I don't know of a single one.
You make a great point because there was one time I was trying to intentionally find a female podcaster that had uplifting podcast information. So like Tom Bilyeu or David Goggins or
Jocko Willink, or
like,
dude, I can think of 10 different ones right now. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, but I couldn't think of one woman besides Leah Hermosi.
I don't know who that is.
Well, you might know Alex Hermosi. Anyways, you can look those guys up. But Leah Hermosi was one of the outliers of women that were coming to uplift other women and talk about those things on podcasts. And I guess it's
God
been
bless.
Right, and
God
she's
bless.
killing it, and she's phenomenal. But I guess it's just been, you're right, it's not been as well received as it should be, or even promoted.
I'll tell you what I think. I think what's going to change that is how many women are now getting into corporate America.
Yeah,
and they're going to start realizing the things that men have already known. It's a dog eat dog world out there. So when you see another woman crushing it, you're not going to immediately think that she's like sleeping with the boss or doing all this other stuff. You're not going to go to that catty shit. You're going to realize.
Open your eyes.
She's doing the exact same shit I'm doing, and she's crushing it.
Open your eyes.
Slay queen, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? I think it's going to take time because I think before it was a lot of competition for the sexual marketplace. Now the women are starting to realize the things that men have always realized, that life is hard for all of us. All of us.
Yeah.
It's not an easy day.
I just wished that I could find more of those female mentors, and I've been actually actively researching it for that reason, because the women in my class, like, I can send them the Jocko Willings, but they may not resonate.
They want to hear from a woman.
Yeah, they may not resonate with that, because I'll never forget listening to "Can't Hurt Me" by David Goggins, and it just like it changed my life. There was one day I ran 10 miles in 90 minutes. I took a screenshot of it for you guys that don't believe me, and I posted it to Facebook. And I was like, look what I just did. And I just listened to David Goggins on repeat. I pushed past my mentality of this hurts, I can't breathe. My legs hurt. I just kept going. For some reason, I broke that wall. And when I did that run, that 10-mile run, I realized that I was the worst enemy I could be to myself when it came to physical fitness, when it came to getting better mentally. I was being my own worst enemy. And if I could, and I've been trying to find that for women in my class, like, so that someone could preach and talk to them in that regard. But Leah Hermosi has been a good reference I've been sending over, and there's a few others I have. But I do think you've touched on a really good topic that in the workforce, it does suck, but seeing a woman risen up, she doesn't have as many mentors underneath her as men do.
She doesn't.
Yeah,
I don't know.
In my own life experience, I've seen that.
I don't know if this woman has a mentor.
Say it one more time.
I don't know if this woman that I'm talking about has a mentor.
Yeah, interesting.
Or if she does, it's a male. I guarantee you.
Wow.
So,
That's good. That's eye opening. I like to hear things like that because I love thought provoking topics. And
I hope I'm wrong, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I hope someone listens to this and they're like, Arion, this is why you're totally wrong. Cool. I hope I am wrong.
And that's the
but I haven't seen it.
right.
And I'm
Or it's
around
not
I'm around corporate America. This
Yeah.
is my fucking bread and butter now.
Yeah.
So I don't see that shit ever.
Wow.
And you can say like, oh well, it's because it's a boys' club. Cool. Doesn't have to be.
Right.
If you started mentoring one another and lifting each other up, maybe it wouldn't be.
Right.
So anyway, I'm not trying to get too combative, brother. Listen, I wanted to get to the Mr. Beast talk as well, but we were already at 3 hours, man.
Yeah.
I wanted to.
Well, here's what I'll say quickly. Mr. Beast was a fun experience. Did not compare to Survivor only because Survivor's the Taj Mahal. Survivor was a pipe dream. The Mr. Beast was more of a side quest. Enjoyable time. Met some great people. Got pretty far in one of the videos and excelled really well. And got to see how Mr. Beast, who with 370 million YouTube subscriber, runs his thing. And it's just wild and wicked. He's got a lot of growth to go as far as the TV shows and stuff, but I think he's headed in the right direction. I think my experience was fun and exciting, but does not compare to Survivor.
Yeah. Well, Sifu, man, this is the first time you and I got to physically meet and talk, and I want to say thank you. I know it's a tall task to be asked to be on a podcast with a guy that you've never met.
Yeah,
never
man.
had a conversation, but I felt like we were off to the races from the beginning. So
Yeah, this is good. I appreciate you bringing me out. I'm glad you allowed the torch to come grace his place.
I'm just glad you didn't beat me to death with it.
Yeah.
I was like opening the door. I was like,
yeah,
Hi.
he did have a funny look. But no, seriously, thank you. I would like to bow out, which I do with all my people that I meet, and kind of teach you something. So
Sure.
we don't have to stand up. But something I say at the end of my class is, with my right hand, I practice the martial arts. With my left hand closest to my heart, self-respect and humility. Thank you.
ooh, fuck yeah. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, definitely, man. Appreciate you, dude.